And then I woke up and there's a nurse named Lauren Brown woke me up in launch stool and said, "Hey, you're here in launch stool and you're in a helicopter crash and you're paralyzed." Recalculating the time, I told my co-pilot to just bring us down out of altitude because we were flying 1,000 feet AGL just because of the aluminum. We hit the ground, aircraft cartwheeled. Said we hit at about a 1,700 foot per minute rate of descent. We were going about 100 knots. Climbed up, looked in, and he said I was folded in half by the pedals. And so they yanked me out and put me on the engine count. I woke up in surgery and I was intubated, gagging and choking. My eyes were taped shut. I got a grant when I got out of the hospital for outpatient rehab, and that turned into an invite to come shoot for Smith & Wesson. We got lots of disabled veterans coming back. Let's try to get guys shooting matches and get them off the couch, get them out with people.
Ladies and gentlemen, as always, it's both an honor and a pleasure to welcome my next guest to the podcast. He spent 13 years in the U.S. Army as a Black Hawk Helo pilot. He was injured in that helicopter in a crash in Afghanistan and lost all use of his legs. He's formerly a member of the Smith & Wesson professional shooting team. Now he's on the team, on the Ruger shooting team. He's the first professionally sponsored disabled shooter. He's the founder of Adaptive Defense, a nonprofit serving adaptive and disabled individuals nationwide to be self-reliant with a focus on self-protection through education, training, and competition. Ladies and gents, welcome to the stage, Trevor Baucom.
Privileged to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for coming. I know being in the same state, it's a little easier to get here, but Houston is still not right down the road.
Yeah,
so
it's not right, but it's close enough. And then this is home. I grew up right up the road here in Carrollton, so it's home.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
What's the last full book that you read?
I am currently reading Pete Blaber's Toxic Leadership, and he's got, I don't know if you've read his books, he's got a series of 3. He's a Ranger, Delta Force guy. And so I'm halfway through that right now, and it's a breakdown on the Pat Tillman incident in Afghanistan and how toxic leadership in the years leading up to it ultimately led to several failures. It led to friendly fire deaths. It's all 3 of his books have been pretty eye-opening.
Yeah.
And
is there a single takeaway that you grasp from it?
Not a single. It's a whole cacophony of fuck-ups that led to it. But it's reading it and kind of taking back the lessons and as they build. And I kind of, a lot of the books that I read, I talking about books more recently. I read Relentless Strike, which is essentially the history of JSOC. And then Cobra 2 is our invasion in Iraq. And I like reading those because I was kind of, as a young, I spent my first 5 years in the 1st Ranger Battalion. Yeah. And so as a young, just a E4, in the Ranger Battalion, I don't know shit. Yeah. I just know I was here one time and I saw this, but then I'm going back and reading these books. And so Pete Blaber talks in his first book, he talks about they'd broken off a squadron from the unit. And they put him with 10 Abrams tanks. I remember after the Jessica Lynch mission, and I sat on the airfield, so I didn't do anything. But I remember waking up, and they had Abrams tanks rolling onto the C-17s we were waiting for. And I remember getting up because I didn't want to be that guy in the back like the safety magazine that got run over while I was sleeping. Yeah. And then I go on to read that, those went out to Saudi Arabia where we were, and then they went out with the unit guys, and then Andy Fernandez he'd been a first bat Ranger. He was one of the platoon sergeants. Guy I really respected, and he ended up dying on that mission. But kind of reading how it all tied in, I had no clue of any of that. I remember seeing the tanks, and then hearing a little bit about his being killed. But I guess the afters in the war, all these guys that were catching early on, they didn't flee to the west because a squadron from the unit had them think we had all tank division out there. Yeah. So I kind of like reading these books and seeing how it all ties in.
Yeah, that's fascinating, man. I'll have to check those out.
Yeah. But his books are really good. Stuff I wish I would have had before I went into the Army.
Yeah.
It's like if I would have known.
Yeah. I read Marcinko's books and a couple other Vietnam-era Frogman books, and, I think that those things are nothing new. It's been, for millennia, for that matter. I think leadership issues have plagued militaries and government and nations since their existence. It's frustrating, I think, to see that, these lessons that should get learned tend to be repeated, it's just, I really don't understand it. But
our entire involvement in Afghanistan, I mean, did we not learn from Vietnam?
Yeah, I know it.
And
Yeah. What's something you wish you were better at?
Oh man, there's a long list.
You can't say walking.
Well, there goes my go-to. It's like, God, I wish I could just stand up and go to the urinal, instead of rolling in and waiting for the.
Yeah.
There's a lot. Sometimes I think patience, but it's something that I work on. I'm starting to get into woodworking, so I want to get better on that.
Yeah.
Or get back into.
Yeah.
I used to do it a bit. I'd love to be better at shooting. I think. I look at my organization. I procrastinate a lot.
Yeah.
I just do.
Yeah.
Sometimes I just have a hard time digging up the motivation, and that's something I think that's come just since I've been in a wheelchair. I don't know if smacking my head in the crash fucked something up or loosened something. I just sometimes I find it hard to give a shit.
Yeah. No, I can imagine that. I mean, I'm making an assumption here, but I would assume that when things that didn't used to be a pain in the ass to do now you're less likely to do them.
It's not that I'm less likely. I get frustrated.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you can imagine. I mean, and it's stuff you'd think I'd get over 14 years on from the crash. But I mean, it's like UPS drops a box off on the porch yesterday, and I'm out there trying to wrestle a fucking box into my lap. And it's like, this should be a simple pop, a squat, grab this thing and go. And here I am 10 minutes on.
Yeah.
And I won't ask for help because I'm hard-headed and,
No, I can imagine. I mean, just the times that I've been injured, is nothing in comparison, but it gives you just that glimpse into, maybe you should appreciate when you're not.
It's all the same though, because it's all of a sudden, even if I'm tweaking my back this morning.
Yeah.
It's a temporary disability, but it's when you're not 100%, you know it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like the event that I do now. My whole organization. I haven't told anybody no with a disability coming in, but then you look at it, and when we started doing this, you start looking at what's a disability. I mean, like somebody that's battling cancer and they're on chemo, is that a disability? Because that chemo fucks them up.
Yeah.
It kind of is.
Yeah. Where do you draw the line?
So where do you draw the line? And that's kind of as I started doing this thing. I guess we'll have to go back and explain at some point, but it's the same thing. I mean, anybody that's not at 100% is kind of disabled in it. It does it. It'll throw you.
Yeah.
And you just got to learn to adapt with that stuff.
Yeah.
And it's hard sometimes.
Yep.
I remember my youngest one was 6 when my crash happened. And I still didn't have a vehicle at this point. And I remember being pissed off because I wanted to go to the liquor store and it couldn't get there. And then it was just,
Yeah.
It was the principal. He goes, "Hey, Dad, you can use my golf club." And I was like, kid's on. I'm not going to do it because I'll crash. But
that's funny. A 6-year-old came up with that. That's awesome.
It's amazing what kids will come up with.
Yeah.
And they're a lot smarter. I mean, if you think about when we were growing up, we weren't on computers and stuff like that. If you wanted something, you got in the book and you learned it, or you asked, or you figured it out. And
yeah. They have ingenuity like a fucking prisoner. The shit that they like, the way that their mind works.
Until we take it away from them and shove something in their face like that. And we didn't let my kids have video games until I think they were probably 10 before they started really getting over to buddies' houses. And it's like, looking outside, just kind of checking, where are you?
Yeah.
Oh, well, we went inside to play this game. No, you spent 4 hours in there. Nah, just because his parents will play that shit. I don't.
Yeah. Hey guys, I wanted to take a minute to tell you about the Mic Drop Patreon, where you can get the real mic drop experience the way it's meant to be seen. You get completely uncensored, unfiltered, and uncut episodes with nothing held back, just raw, real conversations directly from me to you, without YouTube censorship. Plus, you'll see it days before anyone else, with early premieres and exclusive bonus content that you won't find anywhere else. You get behind-the-scenes access to the show, including pre- and post-show footage, with me and the guest both in studio and on location, depending on what the guest is into and what we have going on. On top of that, we've got tons of Patreon-only perks, mic drop swag, access to exclusive merch, and the chance to submit your questions to be asked at the end of every episode. You'll also get a sneak peek at our upcoming guests, so you'll know who's in the studio weeks before anyone else. We're constantly releasing new features and dropping new content based on what you want to see. For our top tier members, you get the same mic drop challenge coin that all of my guests receive from the upcoming show, which will never, ever be for sale. We've got quarterly merch that's sent out directly to you, a monthly Zoom call with me where we talk about whatever you guys want to talk about, and an active group chat where we all shoot the shit on a daily basis. All of that for just a few bucks a month to support the show. Right now, we're also offering a 10% discount off an annual subscription, which means that you get more than a free month. I want to say thank you to everyone who has already signed up. Your support means that we get to keep bringing you the content that you love. So if you haven't yet, hit the link in the description or go to patreon.com/micdrop and join the team. I'll see you guys in there. Thank you.
Since the Civil War, dogs have stood alongside our military, proving to be indispensable partners. Our military prioritized ensuring proper canine nutrition for optimal performance, recognizing its vital role in mission success. Team Dog embodies that standard, offering science-based, customizable meal plans tailored to your dog's unique needs. Developed by a former Navy SEAL and canine trainer, Team Dog Food ensures the highest quality nutrition for our canine companions. Improve your dog's well-being. Be your dog's hero with Team Dog.
Yeah, my kids never got into games, which is nice. I mean, we never let them have them either, but they never even really wanted them, which is good. But
I think sometimes the peer pressure that goes into it.
Yeah. If time travel were possible, where and when would you go?
Oh God, see, I love history, and so I don't know if I would. It also depends. Am I still in a wheelchair, or am I out of the wheelchair? Because
it's anything you want.
Yeah, if I'm out of the wheelchair, I'd love to bounce around and just see. I mean, you could take a list of the history. I'd love to see D-Day.
Yeah.
I would love to see. There's so much. I would love to see some of the epic, some of the Civil War battlefields, some of the Mongol. I mean, there's so much in history to just be able to see and witness.
Yeah.
I mean,
for me, it'd be a lot of it would be the curiosity of how accurate it's depicted nowadays.
Yes.
Just to see, especially, World War II, there's footage and whatever, but you go back, prior to that, and it's all recollections and storytelling, so.
Yeah, and it's only you only get the winner's side.
Yeah.
And that's the shitty side of history.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I was saying. I mean, if I could hit different periods and different things and sit in. I mean, to sit in and listen to them talk at Nuremberg, I mean, you can hear some of the trials, but what are some of the behind-the-scenes talks they had?
No doubt.
Or to sit in and listen to our government talk about bringing Nazis back after World War. Who are we going to bring back to fund our science? I mean, which one of these guys are we going to say, you know what? You killed millions of people, but fuck it, we need to build rockets. So come on,
That's wild.
Operation Paperclip? And,
I'm not familiar with it, but
So I mean, we were bringing Nazis back, and guys that should have been executed by all means, and we're bringing them back and sticking them in, because they're scientists, and we needed this. We wanted to get the jump on the Soviets, and so it's amazing what we'll overlook on our own moral compass just to benefit ourselves.
Well, that's the truth. That continues to happen too.
Yeah. Why are we always at war?
Yeah. Do you have a favorite quote?
Patton said it is foolish and wrong to mourn those that have died. Rather, we should thank God that such men lived. And that my crew chief Brandon had put that on his Facebook the day before we crashed, and it kind of stuck. And it's one of those ones that I struggle with, because I do get that part, but then, you look at the other side, and I was in charge of a helicopter, and we crashed and killed 4 guys, and that's something I live with every day, and it's like, I do kind of mourn.
Yeah.
Do kind of have to mourn that.
To me, it doesn't have to be an either or. I think you can do both.
Yeah.
Not to talk shit on Patton, but
but
and I get the kind of the premise behind the quote, but I think you should. I think you should mourn good men who've been lost in such causes, in my opinion. But
and there's been a bunch of 20 years of war we've lost.
Yeah. If you had to carry something other than a handgun for your EDC, what would it be, and why?
Chainsaw.
Like
no, that'd be a pain in the ass.
Backpack-mounted chainsaw.
Imagine rolling a wheelchair.
That would be awesome.
With it. I do work with my chainsaw, but I've got a tracked wheelchair.
Yeah, so imagine, right? You've got it's like a C-3PO backpack mounted one. Somebody comes up and fucks with you, and you just pull this chainsaw out. And
I'm thinking a tomahawk.
Yeah.
Because like somebody pulls a gun, okay, somebody pulls a tomahawk, it's like, oh man, this motherfucker.
Throw it at him.
This guy, he's going to go Patriot on me.
Yeah, no shit. What's your morning routine like? What time do you get up, and what's the first 3 hours look like?
Oh man, my morning routine most days starts about 8:30, 9 o'clock. But I don't go to bed until about 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock sometimes.
Working or fucking around or both?
That's So imagine I'm paralyzed from the waist down, and so like the plumbing stuff doesn't all work, and so like the process for me to go and take a dump takes a couple hours.
Oh wow!
And so I do that in the evening.
Yeah.
And so it doesn't mess with the start of my day because I used to try to do that in the morning. It's like so. And it's just that part of the injury, Yeah. And sometimes it doesn't take that long. Sometimes it does. And
I mean, if you don't mind my asking, is that something where like you have to do a very specific protocol to make it happen?
Yeah. And again, it's just because the lower parts it doesn't work, and so I've got to run through some medicine, some little mini enemas and stuff like that, and it just takes time. You got to take the medicine, and you got to lay there, 10, 15 minutes, and then get to the bathroom, and you got to do that twice, sometimes 3 times. It just. Yeah. And so I do that at night, and so and that way there's no rush to it because I can always sleep for 2 hours, and I mean I do that. I do that more than I should. Yeah. I mean, it's especially. I mean, I did my event in September, so there's a couple of nights in there. I got an hour nap before starting the next day, but it's I'm able to get all my stuff in and do it that way.
Is the sensation there?
So nerves are weird, and for example, I mean, when we crashed the aircraft cartwheeled, and they call it a jump fast, so I essentially dislocated my vertebrae and pinched it. Mm-hmm. And my friend Gary Linfoot, he was a little bird gun guy, and his crash, they lost the tower and they came in corkscrewing, and he had a burst fracture, and so Gary he don't get muscle spasms, but he gets nerve pain. Me, I get muscle spasms like a motherfucker. Like I'll put my feet on the bed, and they get worse as the day goes on. But there's times, like I said, I'll put my feet on the bed to get in the bed, and the muscles will spasm and lock out, and there's times where it will flip me out of my chair, and I'm you're grabbing it covers, and you hit that point where you're not reaching anything, and you just tuck your chin, and wow, and then the dogs are like, oh, hey, Dad's on the ground, it's time for some love, and they'll come up, and and then I'll get over my being pissed off a little bit, and start working my plane to get back up in the saddle.
Wow.
But it's
Well, I guess, do you have the sensation of going to the bathroom that way?
So I used to know. I'm starting to get some things back. And so like there's times where I can kind of feel, and like when my bladder gets full, I can usually tell that I've got, hey, it's time to go. Yeah. But then there's other times where like today, I felt like I've had to piss all damn day. I felt like I drank a pot of coffee, and it's like. Yeah, and it just...
So the sensation to go to the bathroom is
sometimes, and it's, I mean, like I used to not be able to feel my hip flexor, and now I can feel it. I mean, anybody could touch it. I can feel hot and cold on it. Yeah. So I've gotten some sensation back, and it's just kind of all in this area. And I've started getting nerve pain, which I used to never get, and I've started getting that. And so it's, I mean, things are happening. They're waking up. I think nerves regenerate something like 1 millimeter a year or something. I mean, it's insanely slow, the healing process. But I mean, anything I guess is better than nothing. And so as I've been getting them back, and then I just get tingles and stuff all the time. Which is weird. I mean, like if I scratch here, my left thigh tingles. Scratch over here, the right thigh tingles. Wow. I get massages every 2 weeks, and like when they press down up here and they start going down the spine, you press in up here, it'll start tingling high up, and as you go down the spine, it goes down the legs. It's wild. It's weird the way nerves work. And it's and then they don't know. A ton about them. You see some of the research, like Elon Musk was doing. What the frick do they call that? It's some Frankenstein shit. Like they cut a hole in the skull.
Neuralink.
Neuralink. There you go. They cut a hole in the skull. And they've got a probe sticking out of your skull, and they're doing human trials now. And then I'm looking at it going,
Well, so I guess that begs the hypothetical is that let's say 5 years from now, it's possible for them to implant a chip or something like that in your brain that gives you full use of your legs back. I'm assuming you would do it.
Oh, fuck yeah. I'd jump on that like a fat kid on a cupcake.
Yeah.
I'd love to go run again.
Yeah.
I miss running so bad. I used to love getting up and running.
I don't think it's outlandish.
It's not. I've got one of those exoskeletons, and I haven't been able to use it for a couple of years, which sucks because to get back into it, I've got to go through the training course again. And
what is that?
And so it's I got the Rewalk, and so it's a robot suit, and you can actually buy them now. Festool makes one where you can buy it for yourself, and it's a full body one where it takes some of the onus off of lifting, like if you're putting drywall. But this one, it snaps up, it braces on the hips, it buckles onto the legs, and the computer, you've got to meet certain criteria. So you've got to lean forward so much, and then you hit a button, and it'll stand you up. And then the computer senses you shifting your weight, and so it'll initiate steps on that. Oh. And I had it. I went through the training. They brought one to the house. I used it for about 2 months. I've got bad shoulders. I had bad shoulders. I had 2 shoulder surgeries when I was in the 1st Ranger Battalion. Bad shoulders, and then I ended up in the wheelchair. So it's like, fuck,
Yeah.
And after about 2 months of using it pretty regularly, it got to where it was just killing my shoulders. So I took a couple months off. And then I went to get back in it, and I almost fell. And so then I wanted to go back and get a little bit more training, and then COVID hit.
Oh, wow.
And so COVID hit, VA stopped doing anything, so I couldn't get the training, so I couldn't use the exoskeleton. COVID kind of backed away. I started going back and doing the training, and then I developed a pressure sore, and we can get into that. That was the fucking bane of my existence for a year. But as soon as I got the sore, I couldn't use the exoskeleton. And
where at?
The sore, I got a 1/4-inch cut right where my thigh and my ass meet on the right side, and you didn't think it's much, but because all I do is sit on my ass because I'm in a wheelchair. That was in April of 21. By October of 21, it was this big. It was 2-inch circle, but it was skin deep. And by May of 22, it was 2 inches around. It was an inch and a half deep. And I was substitute teaching. And I was going to the wound care doc, and the doc's, waiting for my weekly appointment. So, hey, I think it's infected. You should probably go to the hospital. And it was the week before the NRA annual meeting, and so I wanted to try to make that because that's where I got the sponsorship for my event. Yeah. I made it 2 days, and it ended up it was a MRSA staff. I got to the house, and about 10 o'clock that night, I got the chills. And then the fever spiked, and I didn't get out of bed for 2 days. And then I got up for my appointment, and I went into the wound care appointment. And I rolled in, and they looked at me, and they, you look like shit. Yeah. And I was like, I haven't been out of bed in 2 days. And they took my temperature, and said, you go straight to the ER right now. And I did, and I spent 2 months in the hospital.
2 months?
2 months, IV antibiotics, just pumping. They tried to stick an IV in me. They had 6 tries, and I told them to fuck off. I was like, I'm not. And it was just because I was so dehydrated. Yeah. And so they sent somebody in the morning, and then they hooked a PICC line up on me. But it was like, after 6 sticks, I was like, man, fuck you, get away from me. Yeah. It's just stop. Yeah. I'm not getting any payback here. So.
Fuck, that's brutal.
Yeah, it was a mess. I ended up spending. From the end of May 22 to the first week of March 23, I spent 140 days in the hospital. And the rest of the time I was on bed rest. Wow. And then and I had to have surgery to close the wound. And then even after I got out of the hospital, I had to go back for a month and do hyperbaric therapy because part of it had opened back up, part of this wound. As I said, the 1/4-inch cut started. I've got on the back of my thigh now that cut all the way across the back of my thigh and then all the way down to my knee because that hole was like that. So they cut it like that to pull all the flesh back together. And then it was.
I'm surprised they didn't leave it open.
Well, they tried that. I had a wound back on for 6 months.
Oh wow!
Trying to get it to heal on its own, it just wouldn't do it. So that's why we went with the surgery finally. And then hindsight being what it is, I look at how much time I spent down. Yeah. So if I would have just went to the surgery first. Yeah. But then I've got my buddy Paul, and Paul was a Marine. Got shot in 2003, and he's had the same procedure done 3 times on one side, so you can't get it done again. Right. So any kind of, and so he's where I'm at. I've got to check the skin because I can't feel it. He's got to do that, and it makes it hard to have a job because like if I look at the skin, like the skin where I had that wound, like if it doesn't look good, like if it looks red, like I've been sitting on it too much, I got to take a day. Yeah. And so if I've got this, job I got to do, it's like, well, I can't. I got I pulled out all my shooting matches this last summer because the wound wasn't looking real good, and I had picked up a little skin break in it again, and it had another infection in it.
Yeah.
And so I just had to pull out everything on the summer and just, it ended up only taking 2 weeks, but, I got new shoes last week, and I knew because I've had these Merrells for about 3 years, and they're falling off. So I got another pair of Merrells. I got the boots though, and 2 days of wearing it, and I had a little red spot on top of my foot. I'll show it if you want to see it, but I mean, just 2 days and had a little blister on it, and I haven't put the boots back on since. And now it's a hole.
Wow.
Like it's just not deep yet, but and this is just a week.
Is the susceptibility for stuff like that, and especially infection, because there's such a lack of blood flow because they're not being
exactly. It's the blood flow, and then I think everybody that went through Launchstool picked up the MRSA, and so that makes anything. I mean, I've got in the crash, I broke my left ankle, my left big toe, and so they had a pin in my toe, and so there's a scar on the knuckle, and that thing will break open once in a while. And about a month ago, that had broken open and it got infected. Yeah. And same thing, I roll into the Dutch, like, hey, look, this is, and I was kind of looking at it and had kind of this big blood blister on top. So how the fuck did that get there? And I'm rolling it. Yeah. And it's like, oh, fuck. That looks like I should probably lance that. And it was the most disgusting, nasty, bloody pus. And I went right to the doctor the next day. I said, hey, look, this is what it is. She said, oh. Yeah. And so we start the antibiotics again. And, it's like, and that stuff's never good. But,
as you guys know, sleep is a huge component to recovery and really all aspects in life, and it's something that a lot of us have struggled with, for a lot of our lives, frankly. As you know, I've been a big proponent of Beam, which is a hot cocoa that you drink before you go to sleep, and it's helped tremendously in terms of hours of sleep maintained as well as the quality of sleep. Today, my listeners get a special discount on Beam's Dream Powder, which is their science-backed hot cocoa for sleep, and it's got no added sugar. Better sleep has never tasted better. As you know, other sleep aids can cause next-day grogginess and just make you feel crappy, but Dream contains a powerful, all-natural blend of reishi, magnesium, L-theanine, and apigenin, also melatonin, to help you fall asleep, stay asleep, and wake up feeling refreshed. If you want to try Beam's best-selling Dream Powder, get up to 40% off for a limited time when you go to shopbeam.com/micdrop, all caps, all one word, and use code MicDrop, all one word, all caps, at checkout. That's shopbeam.com/micdrop and use code MicDrop for up to 40% off. Who doesn't like being comfortable in their own clothes? One of the things that I think I suffer from, and a lot of people do, is wanting to be comfortable, but not looking like you're comfortable. That's why I'm a big fan of Mack Weldon and their clothing. It's kind of a secret weapon in terms of the timeless classic style that has, it's infused with performance fabric as well as hidden details. They're clothes that fit just right. They look like they're business casual, but they're comfortable like sweatpants and lounge around clothes, which I really enjoy. It's just kind of the best of both worlds. I've gotten some pants and some shirts from them, and they're super comfortable, and I love wearing them, especially in the Texas summer heat. They're breathable, but they fit well and wick away the moisture. It's really great stuff. Usually the performance fabric stuff that I've seen in other brands are it's either really shiny material or it just kind of looks off. It looks like it's somewhere in between pants and sweats, and it just kind of has a weird vibe to it. With the Mack Weldon stuff, you don't get that at all. It just, again, has a very business casual kind of feel to it. I enjoy their stuff a lot, and I think you guys will too. You can get timeless looks with modern comfort from Mack Weldon. Go to MackWeldon.com and get 25% off your first order of $125 or more with the promo code MicDrop. That's all caps, all one word, MicDrop. That's at Mack Weldon, MackWeldon.com, and the promo code is MicDrop, all caps, all one word. Get you some Mack Weldon, and you will not regret it. So I want to tell you about this company, SLNT, that was kind enough to send me a couple of their products, and they've come in handy. A disturbing new way to steal your car is reportedly on the rise worldwide, and most of us don't know just how easy it is to become a victim. In fact, in the next 20 seconds, one of you could be the next target. It's been reported that in 2023 alone, over 1 million cars in the United States were stolen. and in many cases it simply looked like an owner was getting into their car. To prove how easy it was, a UK reporter tested it earlier this year. All he needed was two small devices, a device no bigger than a tablet and a cell phone, to copy the car key's fob, even if it was inside a house, in less than 20 seconds. He was able to break into a luxury SUV and drive away. This type of keyless theft is one of the reasons why so many car owners wake up to find their cars simply gone, taken immediately to chop shops or shipped out to foreign countries, never to be seen again. The crazy thing is this isn't just limited to your car. Similar technology can be responsible for data theft and could damage your phones and laptops too. To me, there's no other option. You must try to protect yourself, and the best way to start is with SLNT. Silence Faraday products help block all incoming and outgoing signals so no one can get their hands on your information. From key fobs to phones to laptops, simply place your device inside, close the sleeve, and that's it. You're off the grid and safeguarded from unauthorized access. Go silent today at slnt.com/micdrop to save 15% off plus free shipping on qualifying orders. Stay ahead of what's coming and help secure your privacy today. Again, that's slnt.com/micdrop for 15% off and free shipping on qualified orders. slnt.com/micdrop. I use the products and I love them. Warning, this product contains nicotine. Nicotine is an addictive chemical. Black Buffalo products are intended for adults age 21 and older who are consumers of nicotine or tobacco. It's your good buddy Mike Ritland here with the Mic Drop Podcast. If you are an adult age 21 and older and use nicotine or tobacco, I want to tell you about an American-made success story and Black Buffalo's award-winning nicotine pouches. Black Buffalo's nicotine pouches are not owned by Big Tobacco. They're an independent company proudly built right here in the USA for 21 and over adult consumers. Black Buffalo was built by dippers with decades of smokeless tobacco use. They believed the market wanted a tobacco alternative nicotine product that offered the best of both worlds: bold flavor, full pouches. What are they made of? It's pretty simple: cured edible green leaves, food-grade ingredients, and pharmaceutical-grade nicotine. Most importantly, there's no tobacco leaf or stem. Black Buffalo is all about the history and tradition of dip, but they understand the convenience and discretion modern-day consumers are looking for. Black Buffalo's nicotine pouches give you the versatility to consume discreetly, but still keep the ritual with flavors dippers love. Mint, straight, and wintergreen, all proudly made right here in the USA. So, if you're 21 and older, consume nicotine or tobacco, and want to join the Black Buffalo herd, head over to blackbuffalo.com to learn more. You can order nicotine pouches online, and they ship directly to most states. Or check out their store locator to purchase pouches at thousands of retail locations around the country. Black Buffalo Tobacco Alternative. Bold flavor, full pouches. Is there a go-to antibiotic that you usually take for that?
No, it's with all the MRSA stuff in the hospital. I was on the hardcore, so I was on the Vanco and stuff like that, where they're pulling blood every day or two and checking the levels, and you're getting it 3 times a day. And and the thing is, they can't really play with it, but they also there's also so many antibiotics that they've got, and nobody. They don't pop out new antibiotics all the time because there's no money in it. Yeah. And so, as much as I love capitalism, sometimes,
Sometimes it bites you in the ass.
Yeah. To get somebody to invest into the antibiotics, it's got to be something that's profitable for them.
Yeah.
So
I would say not just profitable, but it has to be massively profitable for them to do.
Yeah. As much money as that industry makes, and I've got issues with the whole healthcare system.
Yeah.
To begin with,
on that, with the VA as an example, because you spend so much time, dealing with them and other. Are you part of the community care thing? Like, do you have to go to the VA?
So no, I get all of my health care in the civilian market, and it's because I was medically retired, and so I've got TRICARE. Yeah. And I got this letter right after I retired. Well, since you're 100% disabled and you have TRICARE, you have to have Medicare. So I have TRICARE, I have Medicare, and then I still have the VA. So I use the VA, and I go to the VA essentially for my annual every year. And that way I get the mail order prescriptions, and it's easy. It saves time. As far as using the VA, I've been down in Houston for a year, and I still use the Dallas VA. Yeah. And it's each one is different, and you would think we could have a standardized system. Government, VA, military, standards, but no. So like here at the Dallas VA, I mean, you saw my truck and, the camper shells opened up. I got the crane and all that. When that stuff breaks, when I was up here in Dallas, I take it to the shop that fixes it, and they just take the paperwork and they send it to the VA. No problem, nothing. Houston, I have to go see the primary care doc at the Houston VA. I have to get a prescription to go and get the appointment to get the vehicle fixed. And so you're talking about something that could take a month, 6 weeks. Jeez. To get your vehicle, and that's all I got.
Yeah.
So that truck's not working. I'm out.
Yeah.
And that's the worst. When you lose the independence and all, it's like fuck.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that just sucks. And so each VA is different, and so I try to avoid it because of that. But like the Houston VA with that, I've decided to stay with the Dallas VA, and it just because I had a bunch of shit with the truck that went wrong. I mean, just 3 months ago.
Yeah.
And it I was able to get it done in the Dallas VA, and I wasn't.
Yeah.
So.
You mentioned prescriptions. Do you mind if I ask? Not trying to violate HIPAA shit, but are you on a bunch of different medications?
I take a muscle relaxer that doesn't really work for the muscle spasms because I've been on it for 14 years. The problem is the alternatives to it knock me out, and it's one of those I probably really do need to give it a month or two to see if I can overcome that part. But I hate that drugged feeling. And I hate taking something and not being able to go out and do because I don't sit well.
What is the heavier shit?
It's trying to think of the name. Max Trazodone was one, I think. Maybe they've had them. I've tried a half dozen, and it's the same thing. I mean, they're muscle relaxers, so they're meant to, and they just
chill everything.
If it knocks me out, I just
Yeah.
And one of the ones they had me trying, I took my nighttime pills, and I took them about 6 o'clock, and it, still had stuff to do, and I didn't realize that I'd had this one new muscle relaxer mixed in there. And I went to take the family for pizza, and I got about 2 blocks down, and I realized why I was so tired.
Wow.
And I pulled over, and I had to swap out and let one of my kids drive, and I was asleep before we hit the joint we were going to eat at.
Wow.
And they couldn't wake me up to get me inside.
Damn.
And it's just like I can't live like that. I mean, I take the primary one I take is baclofen, and it's generally only used for people with spinal cord injuries. And I talk to lots of people, and it affects them the same way that all these other ones affect me. I don't ever remember the baclofen doing me like that. But I'm at the point where the only thing they can do for the muscle relaxers now is they put a pump inside of me that puts that medicine directly to the spinal cord, and I'm not real keen on surgery.
Yeah.
And I've got a couple. I mean, I take a baby aspirin, I take some vitamins. I've got another muscle relaxer type that's for bladder, for bladder spasms, stuff like that. And so it's about it.
Yeah. Man, it's like hearing you go through all of the, I would say, complications of, the extracurricular shit that you have to deal with to just to accommodate being in a wheelchair sounds fucking exhausting.
It can be a pain, but it's I'm alive.
Yeah.
And so I get to get out and do stuff, and so it's just one of those things you just kind of got to take it. And I just understand that a chunk of my day is going to be dedicated to medical stuff I can't really get away from. And
I mean, it doesn't serve you any purpose to get mad about it, right?
Yeah, and it does. I mean, I still get down from time to time, and I've laid off the booze recently, which was a needed.
Yeah.
It was a needed thing.
Yeah.
And I've got to tighten my belt up again, but I mean, I've taken 4 inches off of my belt in the last month and a half.
Wow.
Just from cutting the booze up and changing the diet a little bit.
That's wild.
But I mean, self-medicating in the best way. But
was there a particular thing you like to drink?
Bourbon.
Bourbon.
Yeah.
You have a favorite brand?
Buffalo Trace is my favorite. At the price and the taste, but I had I didn't have a drink from July 3rd to September 17th when I flew up for my event this year. I needed to take a break. But last night I did go over. Once I got to the hotel, I did go over and have a double Blanton's and then I had another one because I had the Blanton's Gold, and the regular Blanton's tasted so good, and I've only had the Gold once or twice, and so I decided to do a back-to-back taste test on it, and it was
stands
just
up to its reputation.
It's delicious.
Yeah.
It's the nectar of the gods.
Yeah, I definitely like Blanton's. Bourbon-wise is my favorite.
Have you tried the Calumet Farms at all?
I haven't.
They have some age. They've got some 16-year, 14-year, and eight and on up, and they've got a blend. It's an 8 and a 15-year blend. Scream, it's like $55, $60. It's delicious.
Yeah. I mean, I actually almost never drink too, but like I'll have a bourbon with my dad, like at Christmas if they're in town or something like that. But that's really about it. Otherwise, I haven't drank, I mean, really at all, and couldn't tell you how long. But
no, it's good. It's like I said, I completely quit, and I've only had a couple since my events kind of started. And I'll get back on the wagon because I do feel better, and you don't think about how alcohol affects you as much, but it is a depressant. Once I quit, because I mean it's I quit July 3rd, which was right after the anniversary of my crash, and so I was kind of hitting it a little harder, just as you roll around that anniversary. And so, but I noticed that cutting off of it really did kind of it helped me out in a lot of different ways.
No, I don't doubt it. I mean,
technically
it's a poison. Your body treats it like poison.
Yeah, absolutely. And it is a depressant, whether you think it is or not. At the end. And once I stopped, I was like, man, it really was kind of fucking me up a bit.
Yeah. Yeah, I can imagine. So you're originally from Carrollton here in the Dallas area. What was your childhood like overall?
I was actually born in Germany, and I lived in as an Army brat for a few years, and moved here when I was 3 or 4. And I grew up in Carrollton. I mean, if you're familiar with the area in Peters, Colony, and Josie, that pond right there, my mom still lives right over there, and I grew up. I mean, summertime would go around that pond 2-3 times a day, and I was always over there fishing. We'd go to the creek that feeds into it, and we'd find shark's teeth and bison bones and stuff like that.
Wow.
And we'd go to the museum all the time and get that stuff dated, and it was I was always outside. I had my slingshot, I'd go around the pond. That was the first time I got the cops called on me. I was shooting snakes and seagulls with a slingshot. we had this old lady that lived up there. We called her the duck lady. She's a bitch. She calls the cops on me because I'm out there, 10-year-old kid with a slingshot. So the cop comes and takes me home, and then Dad gets home, and the thing will tell me, it's like,
nope.
No. Yeah. The cops, it's like, I get in trouble because it's just trying to do it where you can't get caught with it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you play any sports?
I played everything growing up. We didn't stop playing. I played mostly soccer and baseball. When I hit middle school, we started playing football. I played basketball when I started off in 4th, 5th, and 6th grade. I never really liked basketball, but I played pretty much everything. Kind of tried it, and then as I started falling off, I stuck with baseball through probably my junior year of high school, and then I stopped doing that and just started working.
What was your first job?
Like any kid around here, I started cutting grass when I was probably 11 or 12.
Yeah.
First actual punching the clock job was at Tom Thumb bagging groceries.
Yeah.
And then I went from there to Walgreens, and then junior year I picked up a job at an office supply warehouse over off of 35, and I was making, as a senior in high school, I was making $12 an hour.
Yeah.
And I took my first week of paid vacation right before I went in the Army. So I went 2 weeks after I graduated high school. So I took my first actual week of paid vacation was the week before I went in.
Yeah, that's classic. So you joined right at 18?
Yeah. My recruiter said that he had to kick me away. He goes, I can't talk to you right now. You're too young. Because you go back to the books and reading the Marcinkos and stuff. And as a kid and a young teenager, my dad had me reading all those, all the Marcinko books, the Eyes Behind the Lines and all the Ranger books and all that. And so I had it in my mind I was going to go be an Army Ranger, as a young kid. And so the first time I saw the recruiter in high school, I was chatting him up, and I was like, I want to go do this. And he's like, how old? And I'm 14. He's like, can't talk to you, bud. And I actually bumped into my recruiter here at the Dallas VA when I got back to Dallas. He too is in a wheelchair.
Wow.
But I guess when Ford had that Firestone tire recall, he was coming back from Fort Bragg to get married, and his fiance was driving. They had the tire blow out, the Firestone tire blew out, and he got thrown.
Wow.
And but kind of a small world.
No doubt, man.
Bumping into the recruiter.
That's crazy.
And it is a small world. I mean, I was shooting the Bianchi Cup in 2019, which is, it's in Columbia, Missouri, it's smack in the middle of the U.S. And I was coming off the practice range. I was wearing an Aussie SAS hat because we've been flying them. And they set us up with a hat, and so this Aussie guy goes, "Hey man, where'd you get the hat?" So we were flying these guys in Afghanistan. He goes, "Are you Trevor?" Yeah. And this guy Paul Burns, and he was the commander of the Australian Special Operations Task Group.
Wow.
In Afghanistan. We had never met, but he watched them take me off the medevac and into the hospital in Canada because it was his guys.
No doubt.
And so I bump into him in fucking Columbia, Missouri. He was loading mags for his kid. He wasn't even shooting the match his kid was shooting. He was just fucking sucking mags for his kid. But
that's incredible.
But to bump into him,
you
know, in Columbia, Missouri, you know, I mean, I got to Fort Campbell in 2007, and I was born in Stuttgart. You know, my parents were both in the Army. Had a W-4 and his wife that lived on the cul-de-sac with me at Fort Campbell. And they come walking over after I'd been there a couple of months, and I had this older lady with them. And the older lady goes, you know, do you know who I am, Trevor? And I looked at her for a minute. I was like, I used to have a real good memory until I hit my head and started drinking. I was like, Grace Riley. She goes, how do you know this? And so the story is, she was my mom's best friend when my mom was in the Army. And the W-4 and his wife, they were in high school in Stuttgart when I was born.
Wow.
My mom's friend was visiting her old company commander, who was the W-4's wife. And she just goes, hey, my best friend's son's here, Trevor, do you know him? He said, hey, he's cutting the grass right there.
Wow.
And, you know, just.
That's wild, man.
But I think it's the military.
Yeah.
So, I mean, like, I was in launch school right after my crash, and the guy that grew up across the street from me in Carrollton here pokes his head in one day. He was in Switzerland doing research for his PhD when my crash happened. He just popped in, you know.
That's wild, man.
It's
small world for sure.
In some circles.
Yeah.
In the military is a small circle. I mean, even as big as it is, it's still, I mean, you were what? You were still for 12 years? Mm-hmm. And so you've got all that overlap. Yeah. And so guys that were brand new SEALs when you were getting out, I mean, they're still
there. For sure a small world. Can you walk us through, from joining boot camp, going through the pipeline career-wise to get to the Ranger Battalion and then ultimately becoming a pilot? Can you kind of give us that?
Yeah, it's, I mean, well, I'll tell you, I mean, just reading, I knew I was going to go be a Ranger. I had no idea what it was because when the internet was in its infancy, so I had all those Vietnam Ranger books I'd read growing up, and then I'd get there and, no, Rangers jump on airfields, take over airfields. Just, okay, cool, I guess we're doing that. I went to the Fort Benning Home for Lost Boys and went through and did basic AIT, went to jump school. Finished jump school, and the guys are there for RIP. Hey, throw your shit in the fucking truck, and dude took off, and thankfully I was a runner, but I wasn't. I was a runner, but I wasn't that good a runner.
Yeah.
I mean, my best 2 mile time ever was 11:30, and this guy was beating an 11:30 pace for sure, and
that's still pretty quick.
Yeah, no, we were trucking, and it was everything I could do to keep up, and we just kept going. People were just falling back, and it was 3 weeks of 3 weeks. I don't remember a whole lot out of it. I remember some incidents. I remember sometimes like Stan McChrystal was a regimental commander then.
Oh, really?
And we were doing one of those stress drills, where you like go up and clean the barracks, and then they go up and they toss all your shit because it's not clean enough, and somehow there's a fucking full bottle of dip spit poured out of it because, we're doing that kind of stuff. And we've been doing this all night, and the next morning, and we're still going, and we're running in, and he's walking out, and nobody stops and salutes because we're all tired. And so then now we're getting fucked up for that, but I look back at it, and it was, and I'd love to go do that shit again.
Yeah.
Because at the time it sucks, but then you look back, and it wasn't that bad, and there's some great dudes and had some good times, and just some great people. And we finished that up, and then hopped on the bus and went to the 1st Ranger Battalion, and in process there, and it was right at the tail end of 1998, and so got there, got set up, and just started living the life.
Did you have a specialty after you showed up?
No, I was just an 11 Browse infantry guy, so I went to 3rd Platoon Charlie Company and got in there, and I was a rifleman. I fucked up my shoulder and ended up having to get surgery on it. So I spent a year in Charlie Company. After I had the shoulder surgery, I got stuck in the S2 shop. I did that for a while. Had a second shoulder surgery and went and worked as the headquarters training NCO for a bit, and then realized that my shoulder was just, after 2 shoulder surgeries, I was looking at having to get my right shoulder done, and shoulder surgery sucks. And so I just I decided that I needed a different path.
What year was that?
That was second shoulder surgery was 2001, and then and at that point I'd gotten married. I had a kid and a stepkid, and then we started doing the deployments. And it was, I was finishing rehab, and it was looking at going back to the rifle company. I was hitting my re-enlistment window, and I was kind of trying to decide if I was going to re-enlist and keep with it or not. I came out here and did the test for the Plano Police Department, and I did well enough on the test. It was the follow-up testing. I didn't, and I remember that the test was you had to watch a scenario on the TV and then respond like you were there, and I failed that test, and I never did. Yeah, they said I failed it. They said I failed by a couple points, and then I didn't quite understand the role. In one of the scenarios, I remember it's like, it's a first person thing. It's like you're walking in and the dude smacks his wife, and it's like, okay, how do you stop doing that? If he stops, okay. Yeah. If it keeps going, then and it's, so I failed that, and it's whatever. It went back, said, I guess I'm re-enlisting because I had kids and no job, and so then I was like, well, if I'm going to re-enlist, then I'm going to make a career out of this because I'm going to get the big bonus. So that was a 6-year re-enlistment. That puts me at 10. 10's half of 20.
Yeah.
So how can I retire at this point? It's like, well, it looks like a warrant officer is the best I'm going to do at this point.
Yeah. Until
I got college, so warrant officer flight it was, and my packet got picked up while we were in Iraq, and so we got back from Iraq from the initial invasion.
So you were a ranger in Iraq on the initial invasion?
Yeah, but I was in headquarters company. I didn't do anything. Yeah. I got to go out for the Jessica Lynch thing, but I was just counting dudes on and off the aircraft at the airfield. It was an admin. I wasn't kicking down any doors or anything. I was making coffee.
Yeah.
Made coffee and do a manifest.
Yeah. So then you end up getting picked up, and how did that go?
Yeah, so I got picked up, and it was done. We got back. We left April 30th. We left Iraq. They did not want us getting that extra month of pay. It's like that is not happening. We get back May, June. It was May, June, and we had changed the command, changed responsibility going. I was trying to out process, and I think I hit Fort Rucker in July of 03, I think, and did the warrant officer program, which is, it's stupid. It was, and there's thankfully there's me and there's 3 other guys from the Ranger Battalion there. We had a SEAL, we had an SF guy, so we had our own little clique.
Yeah.
And so we'd be getting smoked in there, and we'd be kind of yucking it up because for us it was this is so awful, and all these people that have been living soft jobs in the Army were just sucking.
Yeah.
And so we had fun with it. We made a good time out of it.
Yeah.
And then flight school is flight school. You either flight line early or classroom early, and then you would switch. 1 week you'd have morning flight line and afternoon classroom, and next week it would be morning classroom, afternoon flight line, and they pump you through pretty good. They got a good program.
Did you find it exceptionally challenging, or was it not?
No, they break it down for idiots. You got to look at. They make it almost idiot proof.
Yeah.
There are still some.
Yeah.
And that's what's very, very, very choosy on who I get in the aircraft with.
Yeah.
Because there's people who are like, how in the who ties your shoes in the morning? We had a female in my class, and she single mom, failed every test first time. Failed every check ride. You would hear her crying on the radio coming back into to the stage field because her IP could only take. He's an old Vietnam guy. There's only so much his nerves can take.
Yeah.
And I could just imagine him. Just God. Meanwhile, my IP, another Vietnam guy, and he's over there peeling a fucking grapefruit, and I'm over here thinking I'm getting ready to kill somebody. You put hands on controls, man?
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah.
And this is the first time doing an auto rotation, and in the Army flight school is the only place you ever do a touchdown auto rotation.
Yeah.
And the first time we're doing this, you've got your airspeed and you're hitting, and it feels like, and it's the first time doing this, you're kind of nervous. It feels like this is way too fast, and you're slowing down, but you've got to keep the airspeed. And he's over here peeling his goddamn grapefruit, and he just shoved the cyclic forward once in a while, go back to peeling, he'd shove it forward, go faster, goddamn. And then it just dropped it, and it's like, and then we get going, and then I just see he's just shadowing the controls, and he's, okay, cool.
Yeah.
All right, well, that was cool. That was actually fun.
Yeah.
All right, let's go do this again, and now I don't need any help. I got this now.
Yeah.
But they break it down real simple for you, and their method works.
Yeah. So from there, once you graduate that, what was your first? Well, two questions, I guess. Did you put in for being a Black Hawk pilot, or
yes? Yes. So you get they've got the order of merit list, and they actually do that in flight school. They did when I was there, and so they take the class standing. And we've got 2 Apaches, we've got this many Blackhawks, we've got this many Chinooks, we got this many. Back then they had 58s, and so you had a lot of people that were trying to get the 58s because they're still going to do the Comanche, the stealth helicopter that hadn't gotten killed yet.
Yeah.
And so they were still doing that. So the guys were going 58s, hoping to get into that, and then they ended up canceling the Comanche and then getting rid of the 58, and all those guys got screwed. Yeah. But I picked the Blackhawk. Just there's more variety. There's more places to go, and so I did that. The duty station thing. You pick your 3, and I think my old man hooked me up on that and screwed me. He came out for my flight school graduation. One of my dad's old Army buddies lives right out by Fort Rucker, and his name's Denny Steele. He's just a bad. I met him. He was in his 60s. He was a Special Forces warrant in Vietnam. In his 60s, he was still jacked, and it looked like he still put a hurt on a couple of dudes, Yeah. And we were going, and I used to go hang out with him. Him and his wife made this peach wine. That shit was like moonshine. so
Probably was.
Yeah, he give me a bottle every time I go out there. He get a couple of drinks. He's standing like, whoa. And we were out hanging out with Denny at his place for my graduation, and the senior warrant officer in the Army was there visiting. And I think my dad said something, because I ended up at Fort Irwin right out of flight school. And there were 2 other guys that ended up there, so maybe it wasn't.
Yeah.
But it's non-deployable.
Oh, really?
And I think the old man did that.
Was he? I guess with both your parents being Army vets, were they supportive of you joining?
Yeah. He was real about it. He's like, you're probably not going to like it, but yeah, absolutely. It's it was one of those things. And honestly, I don't think mandatory service is good, but I think everybody should serve in some capacity.
Yeah, I agree.
Whether and again, military is not, and I wouldn't. I think about, you hear people talk about a draft and all that, and you read some of the books and you read about good draftees, but I think that's what makes our special operations forces, or I think that's one of the contributing factors, that everybody that's there wants to be there. Mm-hmm. And I saw that difference when I left the Ranger Regiment and went to warrant officer school, and then because you see, and even the people in place, they wanted to be there, but did they really want to be there, or was this just a way, means to an end? Yeah. And it's
a stepping stone.
Seeing the way things work in a place where everybody that's there wants to be there, because if you don't want to be there, you just say, I don't want to be here, and they'll get you right the fuck out. Yeah. And in the Ranger Regiment, you don't make the standard, you're gone. Yeah. Period. And that's why I put a lot of good dudes out, because they couldn't make the 5-mile standard on the run. Yeah. But can't run 5 miles, but this dude could ruck. You could ruck anybody down. Yeah. But standard's a standard.
Yeah. All right, so you end up at Fort Irwin first.
Yep, Fort Irwin.
How long were you there?
2 years. I got out of there as fast as I could get out of there. Fort Irwin's right between Los Angeles and Las Vegas.
I've done a bunch of special recon training there, where we would spend 5, 6, 7 days in August. Yeah. Watching a fake fucking missile silo site, and just fucking miserable, man. Yeah. Absolutely miserable.
Taking the kids to the park at 11, 12 o'clock at night. Yeah. Because it's just too hot for them to be outside on a slide. But it was cool in that I got over the fear of landing in the dirt. Because we would go right after rotation was done, where they'd been at Bike Lake, Army Airfield there, where they'd had the UAV guys and they'd been driving over, breaking up the crest, and we go do dust landings and that shit. Yeah. Just the nastiest, most powdery shit you can find. Yeah. And we do our practice landings. So you get over the fear of that, and so it was good on that end. Yeah. I got out of there as quick as I could because I didn't like anything about being out there. Yeah, I don't. And I went and I assessed for the 160th, and I was not ready in any way, shape, or form, so I was unsuccessful. But I called the branch manager on the way back, and I was like, "This is what I want to do." And so he had me on orders for January. So I did the minimum time I had to do at Fort Irwin. I got out of there right as they were getting the light utility helicopter, the LUH. I got out of there. They had the first 2 on the ground, so I admit, because I would have got stuck there for another 2-3 years if I'd have got stuck in that thing. And
Wasn't having it.
It's not a place. It's great if you like to look at the stars.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you can see some amazing stars out there.
Or go to Vegas often.
I hate Vegas. I went there to buy a car, and then I go there for SHOT Show every year. It's too many people. It's too loud. It's too busy.
Yeah.
It just. Ugh.
Yeah.
And it's too expensive now. I mean, they used to have. I mean, when I first started going for SHOT, they still had the $5 blackjack tables, and now it's $20. And so I won't even.
Yeah.
I won't even fuck around with that.
Yeah. So where did you go after Fort Irwin?
So after Fort Irwin, like I said, coming back, I called the branch manager. I was like, hey, look, I want to go to the 160th and do that. And so I'll put you at Fort Campbell. And so it was great. So I went to Fort Campbell, and I got into one of my buddies at the medevac there had been a crew chief at Fort Campbell, and so he made a couple of phone calls, and he pulled me because they had me going to the medevac at Fort Campbell, which again, it's the medevac mission. It's a good mission when you're doing the mission. You know, it's something where you feel like you've accomplished something. When you pick up somebody that's hurt and you bring them back, I mean, you feel like you've done something. There's a lot of times as a Black Hawk pilot, especially in Afghanistan in 2008, where I felt like it was a waste of my life being there. But the medevac mission, when you're doing the mission for real, it actually feels like you've done something.
Yeah.
You know,
So is that what you did when you first got there?
No, when I first got to Campbell, I got pulled out. I got put in Charlie Club. I got put in an assault company, and so it was good. It was good, and it was not. It wasn't what I expected because going to an assault helicopter company. We know we're going to Afghanistan in January of 2008. You know, I got there. So in a year, we're going to Afghanistan, and they had just gotten back from Iraq, and so it was most of the train up for Afghanistan was catching up on all the stuff they had deferred, all the check rides and stuff they had deferred, and there was a lot of instrument training and this and that. There wasn't any, we're going for a combat deployment, and there wasn't really a whole lot of, assault training going on.
Yeah.
And then we get to Bagram and spend a year in Bagram, and there wasn't really any combat happening out of Bagram, and that whole year kind of just disillusioned me with everything that was happening over there, because we weren't flying assault training. We were just most of the time, we were just flying a bunch of self-important pricks around. I mean, VIPs, and there were so many fucking VIPs in and out of that goddamn place.
Yeah.
And I had one day, I had a bird colonel ripping my ass at the aircraft because I didn't have a headset for him. And again, this is an assault helicopter company. We had two aircraft that had a special package where they had like 8 Bose headsets, like command and control. And the VIP company was busy that day with something else. We had 3 3-star generals in this bird colonel. And he was mad that he didn't have a headset. And I was like, hey, look, I got 5. I got 1 for each crew member, and I got 1 for the 3-star general. That's all I got, sir. I apologize. I don't know what else to tell you. And that was, I did the flight schedule. I was the ops guy, so I did the flight scheduling. And that was, I essentially took myself off. It was about the last 3 months of that deployment. And I essentially quit flying at that point. I would fly once a week just for currency, because you got to fly goggles once a month. So I'd fly once a week, and I started going to the gym twice a day and just doing the planning. And because it was, we would have a QRF, but the chain of command that we were under, like that task force, anytime the QRF got called, if it was an actual QRF mission, a lot of times the pilots would get bumped by the senior pilots.
Yeah.
And it's like, what's funny? We would call it quickly remove flight gear. That was what we made QRF. So, fuck, I'm not going to. Yeah. I'm only flying this if they need an emergency, VIP trip somewhere.
So during that deployment and early part of your career there, who are you normally flying around? Like, were you doing a lot of missions or?
No. In 2008, I flew one assault. In our company as a whole, maybe 8, 10.
Yeah.
It was all we flew ring routes, flew resupply routes, and then VIP stuff.
I gotcha.
And so really the most in the med chase. You had to have an aircraft chasing the med, and so then you were just following the medevac, and you were picking up if there were wounded and dead, you picked up the dead, and if there was just wounded, then you just followed the medevac around just to follow them, because everything's multi-ship.
Yeah.
It was a very that whole year disillusioned me with everything that was happening. It was because I saw nothing. And there are E7s and E8s bitching at me to put on a fucking reflective belt to cross Disney Road on Bagram. And it's like, you trust me with an $8 million helicopter, you don't trust me to look both ways across the fucking street. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
At some point, you can't treat me like a fucking baby.
Yeah. So you went home from that deployment?
Yeah. So we left after that deployment, and we knew we were coming back in March of 10. So we had 15 months home, and so we knew we were going to go down south for the next deployment. We just didn't know where. So the whole brigade was going to base out of Kandahar, and it was just like we'd done up north. The whole brigade was based out of Bagram up north, but then you had a company out of Jalalabad, you had a company out of Salerno. The whole brigade was based out of Kandahar for the southern rotation. There was a company up in Tarankout. There's a company out here, and we ended up going to Tarankout. So we were co-located with the Aussies, and so we had the Aussie Special Operations Task Group, and then they had the generic Aussies. We had Dutch Apaches,
wow,
which they're kind of worthless. They're ROE. They shot one time the entire time, and I mean I was there March to June when my crash happened.
Yeah.
So I mean, March, 3-4 months.
Yeah.
But they shot one time, and that was 10 days before my crash, and we had. There's actually a really good video on this on YouTube. There's a channel called Liveth Forevermore, and he breaks down some of the battles and stuff. And he did a video on this battle, but it was the village of Tizak. And the commandos had gone in the day before and gotten in a massive firefight, and they had tracked a whole bunch of high-level Taliban leadership to this village. And so we put the SAS in the next morning, and the video is really cool. You can actually see where my LZ was in the video. You see the dust cloud from where we landed, but they ended up killing 70 Taliban in that valley that morning. Wow. Every Black Hawk came out with holes. I mean, it was. I mean, we landed and they were shooting. It was like, man, fuck, all right.
Yeah.
We took coming out of the dust cloud, but we felt like we were doing something there because we were actually. Yeah.
Was that was a pretty typical flight schedule? Is bringing
so what we were doing with the Aussies is we would do windows. We would do 4 or 5 day windows where we'd fly them for assaults, and then they'd take a week off, and we would fly ring routes and resupply routes because there's not enough aircraft to do all of it, and you got to do it all.
Yeah.
So we do a week's worth of resupply, and then a handful of days of assaults. But it was again, it was enough to feel like we were actually helping to do something.
Yeah.
Because we didn't fly a single VIP hardly out of there.
Yeah.
There was once in 2008, we flew a congressman that was in his 90s. Motherfucker had a set of stairs. Everywhere we landed, they had to get a set of stairs out for this guy. And we're landing at some unimproved, fobs out in the middle. I mean, out in bad places.
Yeah.
I mean, but that's the level of bullshit it was, John Kerry and Joe Biden, when they had to make the landing outside of Bagram, that was our sister company that had to, and they were flying in weather they probably shouldn't have been flying. I mean, it was, they had to land for a reason, and it was because of the weather. But there was I had no idea there were that many congressional delegations, and why they had to be in Afghanistan every fucking week.
Yeah.
It's like, my God.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the 2010 deployment was like that right up until we crashed.
I guess before we get into the actual day of the crash, were there instances where you were flying in hot and taking shots and stuff with the?
Yeah, there were a few. We did some really cool missions. One, we actually just finished one of these mission windows with them, and we weren't supposed to fly because it was Anzac Day, which is Anzac Day is Australian New Zealand Army Corps. It's their Memorial Day and Veterans Day all wrapped into one.
Yeah.
And unlike we're here, it's just a 4-day weekend and a barbecue. That shit's deep in Australia, and to the point where I was at the Bianchi Cup, and a 10-year-old Australian boy was telling me the significance of Anzac Day.
Yeah,
They've
awesome.
got the dawn service, the memorial, you've got X, Y, and Z, and it's drilled into the kids. It's a true national thing, whereas, I mean, here most Americans have no fucking clue what any of it's about.
Yeah.
But this mission, the American Special Forces had kind of interacted with the locals, and the locals just said, fuck it, they're sick of the Taliban. And they just went against the Taliban and just captured a bunch of the Taliban guys. And then the Taliban came out of the mountains like, hey, give them back now or else. And so they called for help, and so we flew the Aussies in for that.
Wow.
And we took, they said we were taking rounds going in, and we didn't actually take any hits. I remember that one, though, because my co-pilot planted it pretty solid.
Yeah.
I remember looking back, and one of the SAS guys was laid out across my door gunner's lap, like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
I was like, sorry, man, I let him land it. Yeah, and it, but that one, and again, that was the locals going against the Taliban, and that was they spent a week there. They cleaned the Taliban out of the valley, and I think I can still pull the video up on my Facebook. It was one of the coolest fucking things I've ever seen. Is we were doing the final exfil out of there, and we're in this green valley. And as we're taking off, you've got all the Afghanis up on the side of the cliff clapping. And it was, I mean, that was winning.
Yeah.
You know, that was winning. That was the locals actually saying, hey, we're sick of this shit. We just need you to help us. And but then, you know, I'm sure that got all fucked up and, you know, because we didn't get to keep track. But, I mean, it was lots of stuff like that. You know, we landed them into places they were killing bad guys, you know.
Yeah, man, it sounds intense. I didn't realize that there was such a American helicopter contingent attached to the Aussies. I just assumed that they had.
Well, it wasn't even attached to the Aussies. We were there. They were in Tarancount, and we were in Tarancount co-located. And they said, "Hey, can you?"
Oh, I got you.
And so it worked like that, and it worked out to be a great relationship. When we got there, we took over for the 82nd battalion that had been there before. They'd had an Apache crash early in the deployment, and so their commander was, I guess. The Aussie said he was gun shy, and I kind of, because I went there advon, I was the ops guy, I went there advanced party, and talking to him, what can we do to serve you better? Yeah. You know, and the guys we took over for, their commander was pretty risk averse after the crash, and so he wouldn't let them land any closer than 500 meters to the target. Yeah. And so as a ground guy, you're landing in Afghanistan, you're giving the bad guys a 500 meter head start, you know, and it's like, you know, it's tough.
Yeah.
You know, and then that puts the guys landing out in the sand all the time. And so we talked. We had done the JRTC rotation before this deployment, and we were attached to an attack battalion. So it was an Apache guy that was, you know, the commander, and at JRTC they had planned this big air assault, and they'd given it to the 58s to plan, and that's not their thing. They don't plan air assaults. They plan gun missions, and so they realized like the day before, oh hey, we should have given this to the assault guys, and so they gave it to us. So we pulled an all-nighter, pulling the mission together and all that and planning it right, and we did it. And he goes, you know, that was good. We need to, you know, and so they started giving us. And so when we got there, he was real receptive to anything we said. And I just took the list. I was like, hey, sir, sat down with them. Here's where they say we can serve them better. And he's like, well, why isn't that happening now? And I was like, well, we need to change it. And so he was real receptive to that. We had a really good working relationship with the Aussies, and you know, and it worked out well. They were being successful, and we were having a good time working with them.
Yeah, that's really cool. All right, so the crash day, can you walk us through kind of the soup to nuts, you know, how the morning started, or you know, whenever you got up to shift, et cetera, and walk us all the way through it?
So we were doing another mission window, and so and what we did is we had 3 different flight leads, and so we'd rotate. And so this was my week of leading this series of 4 missions. So I'd planned them all. We had done one the night before, and we were in a period of low illume. There was no moon or anything, and so for us, just a unit SOP, we had to have supplemental illume because we didn't have, and we had less than 20% lunar illumination. And so we'd done a mission the night before. It was just fine. We had the Air Force up on those big-ass IR flares. It burns for like 20 minutes. It's no problem. Night of the crash, we got up at midnight at a 1 o'clock showtime in the morning over at the CP. You know, I got there a little early because, you know, it's just with what I did. And, you know, first got up, called my dad, just Skype, just wish him Happy Father's Day. So it was Father's Day. Went over there, got the coffee going, and got all my stuff ready to brief. And we briefed and got out. And
what was the mission, I guess, brief-wise?
So the mission, this was just a string of missions. They were calling it the Shawalicot Offensive for the area in Kandahar that they were working. And so what we would typically do is we would plan something out, and we would put the commandos out. The commandos are essentially like the Rangers. We'd plan something out, and they'd plan, they'd want to hit this target. And then we'd put them in, we'd go and we'd sit back with the SAS, and we'd wait, and they would go and target off of other means. Whatever else they had, and then we would just go put them down on somewhere on something hasty. And so we had the mission for the commander. We were supposed to put them down at 3:30 in the morning, and or 3:35. They didn't even give a damn what time they just wanted to be there, whatever time of 3:30 in the morning. So we're flying the route. We everything had gone just like every other mission. We took off, and everybody remarked just how much darker it was than the night before. We flew our route kind of down to the south because we'd had a bunch of routes in this area, so we took a longer route to come around from a different area. And we had second to last checkpoint. I had used a fob as a checkpoint. We were going to come down around this pond in the fob and that was going to line us up onto our landing heading. And we ended up having to turn short of the fog because they had one of those big Zeppelins over the top with the cameras and stuff like that, the J-lens.
Yeah.
So we turned a little short, and so I had to recalculate my time. And the time was pretty important on this mission, not because the ground guys cared, but because we had to have that supplemental illumination. And we didn't have the Air Force with the flare. They didn't have that for us at night. And so we had to use IR rockets on the Apaches. And the 275 IR rocket, I think, it's got like a 90 to 120 second burn time if it's launched at the right angle and everything. And so, I mean, these Apache guys, they've got to kind of get nose up to launch this rocket at an angle where it's high enough up to do any good. And so the time is important because you don't want the lights to go out when you're short finally. I mean, if it's dark and it's dark, then it is, but you don't want to go from light to dark. So recalculating the time, I told my co-pilot to just bring us down out of altitude because we were flying 1,000 feet AGL just because of the illume. And I woke up in the hospital.
No
and
shit.
So what happened is again, it was so dark and you don't have the visual acuity, you don't have the depth perception stuff. And told them to come down. I came back in here and I don't know what happened, but we hit the ground and aircraft cartwheeled. Said we hit at about a 1,700 foot per minute rate of descent. We were going about 100 knots.
So if you can take a step back from what you know now, what was taking place, I guess, the 20 seconds, 30 seconds beforehand?
Yeah, I don't even know that it was 20 or 30 seconds. I was just recalculating the time to make sure I had everything right before I called for our rockets. And he was coming out of 1,000 feet, coming down as we were getting lined up on our what we call the release point, but the last checkpoint, because that release point is where we're doing split LZ, so that's where every aircraft's going to go off on their own. And yeah, just somewhere in there, I don't know, it's why they're paying more. It's nighttime, it's dark, it's dangerous, stuff happens fast. And
do you know what happened at this point? Did they run into you? I guess I'm confused.
No, he flew it right into the ground. Just missed. I don't know. We didn't see the radar altimeter. And that's kind of.
It was your co-pilot that was in charge.
Yeah. It was. I was on the map, and it's. We had a system heads-up display. We didn't use it because it was really clunky. It was uncomfortable. It didn't work real well because we didn't use it very often, and so when you don't use something, you've got to use it regularly. And and what that does, it feeds it all to a monocle, but it adds a bunch of weight. It's uncovered. But if we'd have been using that, it would have put all the info there. I don't know that it even worked on that aircraft because we just didn't really use it as a unit much. And it was a tool we had. I know the task force guys have got some better stuff than that. But at the end of the day, just the two of us weren't scanning the controls and the indicators as good as we needed to because I was focused on the map and the time, and he was doing whatever he was doing.
Yeah.
And
how many other people were in the?
We had 15 total. We had four crew and 11 packs. We had 3 of the commandos died. My crew chief Brandon died. My door gunner sitting behind me, he got thrown out of the gunner's window. So if you think about how big the gunner's window on a Black Hawk is, it's not big.
Yeah.
He was a short guy, but it's not big. He ended up shattering both of his legs below the knee. My co-pilot was able to kick his windshield out and crawl out on his own. He broke 3 vertebrae. He's actually over in I understand he's over at Task Force now.
Oh, really?
And he's still going. And then my crew chief got thrown out and passed. And then so 3 of our passengers passed. Several, just kind of depending on where they were sitting in the aircraft. I mean, some of those guys are still serving in the commando regiment, and some of them are
medically retired.
Yeah. I mean, banged up worse than I am.
Yeah.
And it just depends on where they were sitting and
wow.
And what, I mean, you think about all the weight on top of that thing when it hits and where it goes and when it starts spinning. I got invited. One of the father of one of the guys that died, Gordon Chuck, his son Ben, died in the back. And actually, Ben and I had become friends before the crash. He's interesting. I'll talk about him in a minute. But his dad, Gordon, had gotten a memorial set up for all the Aussies that have died in Afghanistan, so he invited us over. And we went for that. So I got to talk to a lot of the commandos that were in there, and I got to talk to the guys that were in the other aircraft and the guy that found me and whatnot. And so he said the aircraft came to rest on its right side. I was flying left seat, post crash fire, obviously. And so he said shit's cooking off and everything. He said he climbed up, looked in, and he said I was folded in half by the pedals. He said he looked in and said, fuck it, he's dead, and went about getting the rest of the stuff done. They were getting ready to abandon the aircraft, and he climbed up one more time just to see if they could yank me out. And he said he saw my hand moving like it was trying to get my seatbelt. And so they yanked me out and put me on the engine cowling from the aircraft because all the litters were gone at that point.
Wow.
And threw me on my buddy John's aircraft for a Casevac. I don't remember. I remember probably 30 seconds before this. I remember getting back to the map, and then I remember waking up at some point in the hospital. I talked to the shrink for a while to understand what was happening here. But I guess what I think happened is I woke up in surgery. I woke up and my hands were tied down. I couldn't move my arms, and I was intubated, and so I was gagging and choking. My eyes were taped shut. I just remember some nurse kind of telling me that it was okay, and then I woke up, and there's a nurse named Lauren Brown woke me up in launch stool and said, "Hey, you're here in launch stool, and you were in a helicopter crash, and you're paralyzed." And it's like, "Well, fuck me, all right,
I mean, was it that simple in terms of your internal reaction to it?
I was really fucked up. I didn't realize how bad I was until later when I had time to think about it. Because, they don't fly family out to launch stool unless you're not going to make it. And they were talking about flying my wife at the time out there. I remember the day that they took me out of there. I was there about 5 days, maybe 6 days. And I remember the day they decided that they were going to ship me back. They had like 70-something people they were going to ship back. And a doctor and a nurse came in and said, "Well, you're lucky. You get us to yourself today." And I was like, "Oh, okay." And everybody else is four patients to a doctor and a nurse. But I was bad enough I have to get my own special. And they took me out of my room in launch stool. We got to the aircraft. The C-17 was running. They rolled up in the back with me and started taxiing before they'd even snapped the litter down. And then we got to Andrews Air Force Base, and they've got these two great big ass ambulances there that hold like 12 litters and I think 6 seats. And they chucked me into one of those and left. And a plane full of dudes, and they left, and I was right in the ICU. And it. Small world again. I told you the book I was reading now is Toxic Leadership's People Labor. He talks about a story in 1988 when they were training, and he mentions their S3 at the time was now I can't remember his damn name. I was just getting ready to talk about it. Anyway, Lisinski. He was a major at that point in 1988 in the book. I remember working in the 1st Ranger Battalion headquarters, and he had been a commander of the 1st Ranger Battalion. I'm in the ICU at Walter Reed, and this guy and his wife come in. He's a retired 2-star general at this point, and then the name, I remember the name. And did you command the 1st Ranger? I was like, how the fuck did you know that?
Wow.
So he ended up promoting me to W3 because I got I made the list. I was set to get promoted July 1st, and so just instead of doing it with my buddies and kind of got promoted. Wow. It's my first day in a wheelchair, but because I got me out of bed the first time. But so I got the ICU, and then the next day I had my own special room just by myself. But it was right by the nurses' station, so they could just look in there and see. And I was banged up worse than I thought I was.
Do you know what now, well after the fact, like what the path was from when you were medevaced out of there, kind of where you went and how you ended up in land school? Yeah,
I think it was point of injury to Kandahar to Bagram to launch stool, and then we bumped guys out of Kandahar. I know because we got visiting my door gunner at Walter Reed. He was roomed up with a 3rd Bat Ranger that had lost both of his legs the same day in an IED, and our crash had pushed him out of Kandahar and into launch stool. And so I met him at Walter Reed, and then I bumped into him at a 3-gun match a couple of years later.
Oh, no shit.
Yeah, he works. He's worked for the Independence Fund. But
how long were you at Walter Reed for?
I was at Walter Reed. I got there. Like I said, about a week after the crash, so maybe last couple of days of July. And I left, I think the 25th of July is when I left. So I was there about a month.
Yeah.
And then I went to Nashville to Vanderbilt and did inpatient rehab there.
Why there? Are they just really good?
It was close to home. It's not that it was not that they were a nationally renowned spinal cord place. If I had to go do it again, I would probably go to the Shepherd Center in Atlanta or Craig Hospital in Colorado. They're the more well-known spinal cord places. But I chose it because it was right up the road from the wife and kids at that point, and so I just figured it'd be nice to be closer to home.
Yeah.
And some of my buddies that were back home, and so I got there. Like I said, I think July 25th, and I was in the hospital until Labor Day. I got out Labor Day weekend.
It's strange and in a weird way, almost fascinating. And I don't mean to sensationalize it in a positive manner. It's remarkable, I guess, that the pilot was able to walk away from it. You know, like he didn't lose consciousness, kicked the fucking window out, and other people were killed. I mean, I know it works the same way in car accidents, and but you'd think like a helicopter that's that big going that fast that to me it's miraculous that anybody survived hitting it at 100 fucking knots.
No, yeah, absolutely. You know? Well, in the speed, and then I mean the Black Hawk. It'll take 11 G's if you hit it greasy side down, but you've got to get. You know, because it's got a natural lean when it's flying because you've got it's some weight.
Like it can handle 11 G's without. Yeah,
if you hit it flat, because it's got those big shocks at stroke.
Yeah,
and so it might break, but it's supposed to be survivable because everything is meant. Everything's stroke. So it's got those big struts that compress and stroke. The seats stroke. Even the passenger seats stroke.
Yeah.
That's why to fly seats out requires a higher approval because you're taking away, and it doesn't, I don't know that it takes much, but the seat stroking still takes some of the crash force out.
Wow. 11 G's is hard to wrap your mind around when you put it in like aircraft context or car racing.
My numbers might be off a little bit because it's been a long time since I've been in the books, but.
Wow.
But it's
I'd be curious to.
I haven't looked at the books in 14 years, so I might be off a little bit, but I think that's right.
Is there an investigation post crash as to?
Yeah. So it comes down to pilot error because there was nothing mechanical. It was not enemy related. We just fucked up.
Yeah.
And we just between the two of us, we didn't work well enough as a crew to not have that happen.
Did they go as far as to specify individual members, or it's just the crew is at fault?
I don't know because as far as the investigation goes, I'm pretty useless because I don't remember. I don't remember the immediate what happened, but they've got a system that records like the last 20 or 30 minutes of cockpit voice, so they've got all that.
Yeah.
And another, again, it came out as pilot error.
Does that cause any friction between you and him?
No, it is what it is. It's we haven't talked in a while. There was a while where I was struggling, and I just kind of clammed up and pulled into myself. And I'm sure it's understandable.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things. I was the guy in charge. I was the pilot in command. So it comes down to me. It's my fucking fault.
Really?
All right. When you're in charge, you're in charge.
Yeah.
I was the pilot in command. So whatever happened or didn't happen comes down to the person in charge on that, and that's me.
Why can't politicians take that fucking approach?
Because they're pussies.
Yeah.
Essentially, that's what it comes down to. That's funny. Because I'm really big on accountability, and when I started working in the damn training room of all places, Chris Greco was the first sergeant, and he's one of the most impactful leaders in my time. And in my in-brief with him, he goes, "Hey, bud, you're coming in and you're working a 2-person job by yourself." Okay, roger that. And he goes, "Listen, you're going to fuck stuff up." He goes, "If you do," he goes, "grab your nuts, come in here and tell me you fucked up." And then the other thing he said was, you're going to have to go and get stuff from these platoon sergeants. He goes, "You're going to have to use my name in vain to get what you need. So go for it."
Yeah.
And I remember the first time I fucked something. I don't remember what it was. I remember being nervous. I was like, man, I dropped the ball big time. I watched it. I was like, hey, man, this is what happened. I fucked this up. I did bump. Okay, cool. Fix it.
Yeah.
And that was it. And I remember, and it goes back to a story that he had that I didn't hear until years later. Here recently I heard this story, and it goes back to him kind of trying to play shithouse lawyer with a legend in the Ranger community.
Yeah.
But again, it comes down to just you fuck up, grab your nuts and say you fucked up.
Yeah.
And
no, I mean, I love and appreciate that approach, and it's so rare, and it's refreshing to hear you say that. Having said that, I could see, I guess, one, I'm curious and unclear on, from a pilot protocol standpoint, is that typical where the actual head pilot in charge is not on the stick?
Oh, yeah, so it's a team effort up front, and I was a flight lead as well as a pilot in command. So my job was the map. My job was making sure we hit the target at the time we had, making sure that our IR loom, our supplemental IR loom was called on time, making sure that all this other stuff is moving on time. Flying the aircraft's pretty easy.
Okay.
It's just sometimes you get task saturated, and that's why you got two bodies up there. So you've got somebody to bounce off. I mean, you've got guys here stateside doing single pilot, MVG ops, doing medevac and stuff. It's a higher risk thing.
Yeah. So I guess the short answer is yes, that is a common thing.
It's very, very common. Yeah. Sorry, I get long-winded sometimes. No. It essentially comes down to just two guys up front. It's like, hey, do you want to fly right now or not? And,
is there I mean, it's kind of a strange duality or dichotomy, I think, in that, you were the one that injured and technically you were in charge, but he was in charge of the controls. Like, is there any of that, like... We
were both pretty much the same experience level. I might have had another 100 hours on top. I said we had 3 flight leads rotating. We were 2 of the 3.
Yeah.
So we were very similar experience-wise anyway. But, when I talked about Gizab, I talked about my co-pilot planning it. Mm-hmm. He was a more junior pilot to me, and I was monitoring the controls. I had my hands on the controls. I mean, because you always want to have that when you're landing in case somebody gets popped short final or something. So we've always got that.
Yeah.
But obviously not there because we didn't plan on landing there.
Sure.
Yeah, so I wasn't on the controls at that point.
In that same scenario, let's say hypothetically that there's an issue at altitude, whatever it is, 1,000 feet or whatever. But and kind of almost like the scenes that you see where there's an issue on a plane. If you're the pilot in charge, but you're navigating basically, is that something where you would kind of micromanage his actions to pull out of certain issues?
You could. We had something similar to this in 2008. I was flying with my buddy John, and John was he was one of the IPs in the unit, so he's one of the more senior guys. And he was actually this was on my check ride to be a pilot in command. Yeah. And I'd flown this aircraft 2 or 3 days before for an evaluation at Bagram, and we had an issue with it. And the issue we had one of the engines oversped. And so you set the engines at 100%. And there's a computer that will keep them within, I think it's 3% of reference. You set it at 100, so as they fluctuate, the computer will keep them, if one goes up to 103, it'll keep the other one from chasing it too high. Okay. Something along those lines. Again, it's been a bit since I've been in there. But this one aircraft, we had the engine failed to the high side and started overspeeding, so we had to pull it back. So 2 days later, John and I are flying the same aircraft after the maintenance guy said we were full of shit. And this engine goes, we call it lockout, but you can bypass the engine by taking the power control lever down and taking it out. And the engine essentially went to lockout and just went to the high side immediately. So you've got just all this red shit on the one side, and then the rotor starts overspeeding because the engine's going up, and it's like, whoa. Wow. This is getting exciting, Yeah. And we're looking, trying to figure it out, and you've got passengers back there that don't know what's going on, but they see the guy up front pointing shit and talking, and he sees a bunch of red stuff, and it's like, But John was a senior guy. He was on the controls at the time. Yeah. And so he stayed on the controls and he flew. Yeah. And I went through and started handling the EP. Yeah. And it just, everybody's got the training. We're talking. So he's like, hey, do this, or hey, do that. If I was fucking it up, you could have said you fly this, but it's at that point, where do you want the experienced guy? Do you want the experienced guy on the controls, the aircraft when you're having hiccups like that, or do you want them?
Overseeing
it. And so it's
is the Black Hawk a single engine rotor?
No. 2 engines. Well, really 3. You got an auxiliary power unit too, but it doesn't power the actual drivetrain. You get 2 engines.
Do you know what engines they are and like what the displacement or cylinder or horsepower?
It's a T701 701 series. As far as the horsepower and stuff, no, because actually I don't even think they're using the 701s now. They've got the Mike model Blackhawks.
Do you know what brand the engine is?
G.
Yeah. No idea what the horsepower is.
I can't remember at this point. It's I used to know.
How many cylinders are in it?
Yeah, there's no cylinders now.
It's really?
Yeah.
So is it more of
a turbine?
Oh, okay. Fuck that. highlights my ignorance of the difference between cylinder and turbine driven.
No. It's I'm not the smartest guy either. So.
Well, I just like, to me, I'm into cars and bikes that way. So like my whole world is all, it's pretty microscopic as it relates to that type of engine.
No, absolutely not. It's
but
and that's a lick on me for not remembering. I kind of want to Google it now just so I know.
Matt, can you Google the what's the horsepower for a Blackhawk engine? I'm curious. We're curious.
Yeah.
Well, he looks that up.
I used to know that stuff.
Yeah.
I just when you don't study stuff for 14 years, it tends to
when that thing almost kills you.
No, it almost killed me.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's brutal. In terms of post-operation and post-recovery evaluation, head injury wise, did you have a TBI for that?
Yeah, the testing didn't, but I mean, my flight helmet was split in half.
Yeah.
I mean, so I had the stuff, but I mean, I didn't have any lingering effects from it. I mean, I know some guys with some severe TBI.
Yeah.
I mean, the guys that didn't even have. I know door kickers that never even had a single injury, but so many times, so many iterations.
Yeah.
Next to a door with a charge going off.
Yeah, they're all
just fucks you up.
Yeah.
And so I mean, it's long story short, I'm sure there was some eggs scrambled, and then there's enough other shit, just with depression and all that other shit going. There's enough other stuff to really hit.
Yeah. Do you remember your first conversation with your co-pilot afterwards?
No, I don't. It was I want to say he came in and saw me at Walter Reed because he got medevaced as well, but I don't remember the conversation. I mean, there was a period where I was mad, but again, it was just me being depressed and me freaking drinking way too much. And
has he harbored any ill will towards you? You think?
Not that's been vocalized. Yeah. It's one of those things. Man. It's a dangerous job. Shit happens fast, especially when you're going fast. And
I want to, I guess, be transparent in that, like, I'm not trying to fucking start shit.
Yeah, no, 100%.
I could see how.
Yeah.
There could be.
It's easy to see, and at the end of the day, no, we were two dudes up there doing a mission, and
that's cool.
And it's,
because I mean, shit happens in my line of work too, whether it's breaching charges or shooting each other. I mean, like, bad things happen, and it's a dangerous fucking job, and
exactly,
and you have to take shit with a grain of salt.
Yep, it's the fog of war. At the end of the day, we all wanted the same thing. We wanted to get back and high five and. Maybe have a sip of something at my hooch that shouldn't have been there.
I do have a couple of Patreon questions. I do want to thank all of our Patreon members, and if you're listening and not a Patreon member and you want to contribute to the episodes as well as get behind the scenes stuff, I encourage you to sign up. But John, and some of these questions there may not be a lot of experience with it, but favorite helicopter you've flown and why? Have you flown many more than?
I haven't flown many more. I mean, I've flown the Blackhawk, I've flown the OH-58 Alpha Charlie model, which is a Bell 206, and then a Bell 206 proper for flight school. Yeah. I like the Blackhawk. I did have an opportunity to fly a civilian helicopter. A guy came out to the range. He's a friend of the guy that owned the range. He came out and he offered to let me fly with him, and he had 400 hours. Oh, wow. And I remember where I was at 400 hours, and I was like, nah. And I was out there with my buddy, my friend Keith, and Keith was still an active duty instructor pilot at Fort Rucker at the time, and he did go fly with the guy, but the guy wouldn't let him fly me, and he couldn't anyway because it wasn't actually checked out in the aircraft. There's no way I was getting up with somebody else, And then I got one last flight in a Blackhawk, and I had to pick some buddies to fly me. But
that's cool.
That was cool.
You never got to fly a Little Bird?
No, I got to ride on a little pod on the outside. That was
the other question was, what's the fastest helo you've ever flown? But obviously, it'd be the
Blackhawk's the fastest I've flown.
What is the top speed on that?
It depends on the engines and stuff. They say you can hit velocity that never exceeds 193, I think, and
miles an hour or knots.
Knots. Yeah. The best I had, we were in. It's when I was at Fort Irwin. And we were at about 170 because SoCal Approach called us and asked us to verify that we were a helicopter. And I remember that was just a point of pride.
Yeah.
It's like, fuck we're a helicopter.
What is that mile per hour? It's almost 200.
It's about the same. I don't know that it's that big of an offset.
Yeah. I know it'd be a little faster.
Yeah, it's a little bit faster, but not a ton, I don't think.
What's the highest you've ever flown?
So you get half an hour over 10,000 feet. If I'm remembering the numbers right, you get half an hour over, or maybe it's an hour over 10,000, and it's a half an hour over 12,000. I think 12,000 is about the highest I've been, and that was just landing on a mountaintop in Afghanistan.
Yeah.
That was nothing sustained because the oxygen up there. I mean, you've got to stay. You've got to stay where you can breathe.
Yeah. I mean, thrust-wise, a Black Hawk can't go much higher than that, right?
Yeah, you can go. It says the service ceiling is 18 grand, but you've got to have pilots on oxygen for that and everything. You start losing power pretty quickly. I remember in 2002, we were in Afghanistan. We had a platoon-sized QRF. We were running out of Kandahar, and I was the air guy for that little QRF we had down there. We had 3 Air Force Pavlos for a QRF aircraft, and you've been in a Pavlo before, being the late 90s, so you've been in a Pavlo, and you've seen how big that fucking thing is. In Afghanistan, for some of the places we were trying to go, they were giving us 5 and 6 guys.
Wow.
That's all they could get on there. And granted, that's because it's a Pavlo, and so they've got all their engines, they've got all this extra bullshit that they've got in there, and then you've got, it's an Air Force bird, so they've got to have their PJs on there and stuff like that, which, for a QRF, you want it, but you also, you want some guns too.
Yeah. Matt, did you get a figure on that?
Yeah, it said each engine capable of 1,560 horsepower.
1560. Wow. So
3120
horsepower. That's no joke.
No, it'll go.
But to be, I guess, putting that in context, though, I mean, do you know how much it weighs? By itself?
So running overseas, we're looking at about 17,000 pounds.
Yeah, I mean,
because you've got the aircraft, you've got all the fuel and everything. We had BAPS plates there, so you got 1/4-inch Kevlar plates on the floorboard, all weighing it down. And so it
between that and people and armament, I mean, you could get up to
22,000 is max for us. But then it's what can you take off and land with?
Yeah.
And so depending on where you're going is what determines. I mean, because otherwise you end up we were exfilling the commandos one day, and we had to come in backwards. So we had to come in. We planned to come this way. They were taking fire from that way, so we came from the other way, and they. Not being quite, I guess they just weren't paying attention. They didn't know. They threw all the POWs on our aircraft, and so they had us overloaded. And you know what your max torque is.
Yeah.
And so, again, I wasn't on the controls. I was on the map. I was flight lead on that one again. My co-pilot that day, I was like, all right, well, this is the power we've got. And so I've just got my hand on the collective, so she can't increase any more. And she's trying to pull more pressure. I need more power. I was like, we're at max torque. You got nothing. So and we're sitting here, and we're starting to droop the rotor because we've got too many people because they threw too many POWs on, and we were just able to milk it because you can carry more when you're moving forward. Just when you're sitting at a hover, you can't. Just because of the way the airflow works, it takes more power.
Yeah.
And so once we got a little bit of forward speed going, and it's just the way a helicopter goes. It starts going, you feel it kind of gets slow, and it shudders. You come through effective translation, and then you're actually flying.
Yeah.
That shudders when you're outrunning kind of your bad air, and you're getting into clean air, so it gets more efficient. And you start, and so we've got all these people, and we're milking this. We got trees coming up, we're like, fuck, and you feel the shutter starting, like, thank God. and then it's on the headset. Like, what the fuck are you? Blah blah blah. Why do you have so many people? You didn't know it was a problem.
Yeah.
I told you how many people you had. Yeah. Why do you have more? Well, we would.
Yeah. Wow.
Could have been killed.
Do you know what the torque numbers are?
You get up to, it just depends on, as far as what torque you got available.
Yeah.
It all depends on where you're at.
Okay.
It's just dependent on altitude and not temperature.
I guess the most that's ever available, like what's the max?
It's 100%, but it'll go a little bit higher, but you get into transients and stuff you can't do. I know,
do they measure it the same way they would like an internal combustion engine in a car, like foot-pounds or pound-feet of torque?
No. We're looking. We've just got a readout for the torque we're using.
So it's a percentage.
Yeah. We're just getting a percentage. Is all we're getting.
Yeah. Do you know, or is it even tangible? I guess from the day of the crash, recovery-wise, where you got to where you're as recovered as you're going to be.
Yeah, it's with spinal cord injuries, it's the first year they say is really when any improvement's going to happen. But then here I am 14 years out, and I am improving. It's just It's just a matter of, is it ever going to amount to anything?
Yeah.
There's stuff, you always read stuff. And so I've read about studies where they're putting guys into hypothermia right after they get hurt, pumping cold IVs into them.
Really?
Because if you think about it, like with mine, where we dislocated, we didn't sever anything. We pinched it, and then you've got all this swelling that happens that puts more pressure on the spinal cord. So if you put them into hypothermia, that swelling doesn't happen. And so maybe you minimize the damage.
Yeah. Wow.
It's a theory. I don't know how far that theory's gone. It's something I read a while ago.
Yeah, I mean, logically, it makes sense. I am really encouraged that Neuralink and the advancements of medical technology in the next 5 to 10 years, that people such as yourself will get full use of their legs back.
I hope so. It's one of those things, and there's no telling what can happen. I mean, there's so much stuff happening. I mean, in technology. I mean. Yeah, look at where we were at the start of the GWAT, and look at when you left, look at what we had.
It's almost unrecognizable.
Yeah, even just with us. We went from beepers to now I could call you and you can be. I talked to some of my Aussie buddies.
Well, it's like
regularly.
the Jetsons. Like you can FaceTime somebody across the world.
Yeah, anywhere. At any time.
Yeah, that wasn't even. If I think back to when I first joined the military. Like the things that are possible now, I could not have even imagined then.
Yeah, and so who knows what's going to happen in the next 5 to 10 years? And there's other stuff. There's devices. I've got a wheelchair that's got tracks on it. It's called an action track chair, and that's for outside hunting and stuff. I've got another one that's called the iBot, and they actually sponsor my event every year.
Oh, nice.
And because it's right up the road from where they come. But this is a wheelchair, and it's. It might even be worth you putting up there because the VA is buying them for guys now.
Yeah.
And it's got four rubber tires. It's got 2 plastic casters, and it'll go around on the 2 big tires and the casters, and it'll zip around about 7 miles an hour. You can put it on the 4 big tires. You can go off road and all kind of stuff. Yeah. And then it'll go up on 2 wheels, and it'll balance just up on 2, like a Segway. Think about it. And so like I can go to the bar, and I can you and I could sit here and we could talk face to face. Oh, sorry, we could talk face to face instead of you looking down while I look up.
That's cool.
It'll do stairs, so I could take it up and I can go up and down the stairs with it. The hub, the wheels, just the hub itself goes step over step, and it's really I had a hard time with it at first because you think you've got to muscle it, and it's not. It's all finesse.
Yeah.
It's shifting the weight,
yeah.
And once you shift the weight, the computer senses it and it initiates the hub to move.
That's fascinating.
But it gives me the ability. I can go up and down curbs and stuff without a problem.
Wow.
So I'm in that thing every day anyway because I've got 2.5 acres, and then taking care of that, and then I'm in the wood shop, and and the table saw scares the shit out of me.
Yeah.
It's in that chair because it's like I'm going to catch anything that gets kicked back right in the grill.
Do you live alone?
No, I've got my girlfriend there, but it's still.
Yeah.
She's not out in the garage when I'm out there playing with the tools,
Yeah.
and it might be a while before somebody realizes that there's no noise coming out, or they hear the saw going, and
Fuck, man. So I'm going to ask, and I know people are curious. I know I am. Can you still get a hard on, or do you?
So I've got pills and injectables, and it's kind of weird sticking a needle in your crank.
Yeah. Do you not feel it when you do it?
No, I can't. I can't feel it, and that's why it's okay. It was it's like when I was at Walter Reed, and I have to use a catheter to take a leak.
Yeah.
And when it first came down to that, it's like calling for a nurse to do it because it's just weird.
Yeah.
Something in your pecker is just weird.
Fuck yeah.
And it took a male nurse on the night shift one time at Walter Reed, and he's like, "Look, dude, I'll touch your dick if you want to." He goes, "Or you can just understand this is the rest of your life." And you're gonna have no,
have to figure it out.
Got you, man.
Yeah.
Just go. I'll figure this out. I'll make it work.
Man.
And so it's I can take a pill. I can take a shot. It turns me into a jungle gym. A piece of playground equipment for a little while.
Yeah. And sensation wise, you don't.
Yeah, I don't really feel it.
Yeah.
Just the optics.
Yeah. Is that something that I guess from a psychological standpoint is tough?
Yeah, it sucks. Yeah. It fucking sucks. Yeah, there's no finding a positive to it. Just sucks.
It just sucks.
It's like the kids who got their little fidget spinners nowadays. It's like I lost mine. You know, can't do it anymore. You know, it's like
that's such a brilliant way to fucking put it. I love it.
It's
I don't mean to pry. Just
no.
again,
It's I'm an open book, man. I will answer any and all.
Yeah,
you know.
Transitioning into the competitive shooting career, was shooting something that, like, whether it was Ranger Battalion or on active duty as a pilot, was that a hobby of yours prior? So it was.
Nope, it was completely just a chance thing. I got a grant when I got out of the hospital for outpatient rehab with a place that was run by the Shepherd Center, which is that place in Atlanta I was saying. And so I did that, and every day coming out, there's a car parked there, and the license plate said Guns TV, and he had a Ranger sticker. And so finally I caught the guys outside, and I said, so which one of you guys is the former Ranger? And I was, well, nobody but my son is, you know, and it's Jim Scout. And he did Shooting USA, and then he had Motor Trend TV. He used to do Motor Trend TV, and that's where I first remember the voice, because if you've ever seen it back in the day, you know his voice. Yeah. He's got a voice that would make a Wolverine purr. And he used to be a newscaster in San Diego. He is Ron Burgundy.
Yeah.
We had him sing Happy Birthday, Mr. Burgundy a couple of times. But he so I met him, and so started just shooting the shit with him after rehab, because I mean I go 3 days a week, and it's 3 hours per rehab session. I mean, and it's a fucking smoker. I mean, I was in really good shape then, because I mean I'd been at 2 a day. You know, I mean I'd hit a CrossFit workout every day, and then I'd go for a run, or I'd do another work, something. Yeah. And I almost bit my tongue off in the crash. I mean,
oh shit!
I almost bit that motherfucker off. I mean, so for the first month after the crash, I couldn't eat.
Damn.
Because it was almost like the cartoons. It was swollen up in my mouth and like rolled up. And so I was on a liquid diet, and at one point I had 76 cans of Boost on my table at Walter Reed. Jesus. And like, are you going to drink those? And I was like, do you think I'm going to drink it? Tastes like shit. I don't like it.
You think they could give you a better option than fucking Boost?
That's all they offered was
like
Boost.
Muscle. I mean, at the time, like Muscle Milk or something.
Well, I mean, so when I had the pressure sore here recently, you know, they want you getting 100. They wanted me to be getting 150 grams of protein plus a day. Yeah. And I can't eat that much. That's a lot of food. Yeah. And so I was just doing protein shake. But again, instead of the Boost, I would just get the Optimum Nutrition Whey. And it tastes delicious, and you can drink it. Yeah. So, I mean, I had a month at Walter Reed where I lived on broth. And so I dropped 45 pounds. And so I went from being 195 pounds, just solid, stocky, to 150 pounds. Yeah. And so, I mean, they had me doing dips in rehab, and I was able to hit 100 dips in a set. I mean, but I had the muscle. I dropped 50 pounds. Yeah. I mean, it's like, fuck. And so I'm going, but there was still a smoke session, those workouts. So I'd do a little bit of lifting, and then they had a walker and a little walking setup for me there. But same thing as my exercise, it's a lot of weight through the arms and the shoulders. Yeah. And so I go shoot the shit with him, and that turned into an invite to come shoot for Smith & Wesson. And the invite was based off of this was still 2010, so we got lots of disabled veterans coming back. Let's try to get guys shooting matches and get them off the couch, get them out with people. Yeah. And that's kind of I took that, and that's kind of what I do with my nonprofit now. It's about getting people out, because in my own case, I would take the kids to school right after I got hurt. I'd take the kids to school, and then I would go, and if I was going to go shoot, I'd go shoot. I'd go hit the pool, and I'd get home, and it's noon, and I got nothing else to do. Fuck it, I'm going to have a drink. And then next thing you know, it's 2:00 in the morning, and you're still drinking. Wow. And
it's not doing you.
It's not good. And then, we talked about alcohol as a depressant as I'm sliding down. And so it just, it was a bad situation. And so the shooting helped get me out in a way. And so the goal with me doing it was to try to help get other people out of the situation I was in and get them out to the range. Yeah. And then, so I started working, aside from just doing the matches, I started working with a charity called Honored American Veterans Afield. And they do just disabled veterans, but they do hunts, and then they do family range days. And so the family range days bring the whole family out to the range. We got bouncy houses for the kids. We got airsoft for the little kids. We got guns for everybody else to try. And I used to run a family day for them, and then we lost the facility. Just the facility that I ran mine at went away. And then a while later, I got a call from a guy who'd been a cop, and I knew he was a master level IDPA shooter, and he'd gotten in a fight with a mentally ill suspect ended up blind and deaf on one side, and he was wanting to get his IDPA classification bumped down. I was like, that's kind of being a pussy, you know? I mean, I was like, why don't you just keep shooting as a master? I mean, people know you had to earn that master. You didn't get it given. And so just shoot as a master and let people know something bad happens to you and you're still out here throwing down. And but then in the same token, I said maybe I should do an event just for people with disabilities. And so that's where I took I took the competitive side and took it and made the nonprofit up, and we've been running this up at the SIG Academy. Now we just had our 6th event.
Wow!
And it's just getting people out.
Yeah,
you know?
I think it's phenomenal. I mean, it's such a good purposeful cause that combines, kind of the history and what you're used to, and being outside and the camaraderie. I mean, like there's just a lot of elements that I think are crucial, to being able to rehabilitate both physically and mentally from that regard.
Yeah, well, and the shooting community is kind of special in that too, and it's a lot of like-minded people.
Yeah,
but it's also each discipline's a little different.
Yeah,
and it's but it's I feel like by getting people out, kind of just maybe part of that's me helping atone for my fuck up, killing people. But we're getting people out and we're helping them out. We're getting people. We've got people out at my event. We get people that have never touched a gun before. We had a lady last year that had never touched a gun in her life.
Oh.
She recently ended up in a wheelchair. She got attacked. Came out and the SIG guys were good enough, because the SIG Academy they do so much for us up there. I paid them to run my event the first year. I paid like $10,000.
Wow.
And we had Michael Bain come out and do it for his show shooting gallery.
Nice.
So it was on TV. I mean,
Cool.
zooms in with the drone footage real big.
Yeah.
It's like, I paid you guys to give you that. But they since then they have bent over backwards for us. And so we had this lady last year that had never touched a gun, and so they broke off an instructor and gave her a special first shots class. And then she came out, she did our basic pistol, she did the advanced pistol we've got. She shot the match. She won a Glock off the prize table.
Damn.
The Glock rep up there, another small world story. The Glock rep was on the Jessica Lynch mission.
Wow.
As well. He was an Air Force combat controller attached to 1st Ranger Battalion Bravo Company.
Dude, the amount of small world instances that you have.
Well, it's. I mean, I picked these little things. It's just weird.
It's like the Kevin Bacon of the fucking veteran community.
Maybe. I don't know. But so he's up there and he's the Glock rep for the area, and so it's like, hey, what's going on? And but he went out to her home range and set her up and.
Yeah.
And then she won a SIG off the prize table this year. She's getting lucky.
Yeah,
we give away more guns than most major matches do at my match. It's kind of sick.
That's cool.
And so we've had years where everybody's left with a gun.
That's badass.
It's insane.
So
I'm trying to get a Texas event going now.
Yeah. Well, if there's anything I can do to help, and I don't know what that is, but if there is, please don't hesitate, because I'd love to help out. So adaptive defense, what is your goal long term with that? Obviously,
so the goal is we've got the event now at SIG, trying to branch off and do this one in Austin. We started off with adaptive defense because it started off with an IDPA match. We do some defense stuff, and we try to mix some competitive shooting. I figure it's all defensive training. If you're shooting, it doesn't really matter what kind of discipline you're shooting, and it's all training, and we're training for defense that way.
Yeah.
But I think the goal is to just get as many people out as we can with disabilities, and just get them off the couch, get them involved.
Yeah.
And we're having success. I mean, just up there where I've had this going, I mean, now there's a handful of people in wheelchairs that they're getting out and they're shooting matches regularly and stuff. They're bringing other people out and getting other people involved. And I think I guess at the end of the day, what I want is to get people out and involved in the firearms community. The more people we've got speaking up for it, the more people that'll fight for it, and the more people we're getting out with disabilities, the more people we're getting off the couch and helping. And if we can keep people from sitting on the couch and drinking themselves into punching their own ticket, I think it's better, because it's a shitty place to be. I've been down there. It's not a pleasant place.
No, it's a super noble cause, man. I love to hear it, and I'm inspired and proud of you for doing what you're doing.
I appreciate it. Appreciate it.
A couple other questions. Another Patreon question from Kevin: is there an advantage you have in your life now that you didn't have before the accident?
Shooting trap.
Yeah.
That wheelchair puts me on a fucking plane to where it's almost cheating, because everything is on a level plane. That's where I get an advantage.
Yeah.
That and occasionally I'll get a beverage or something out of it. But But yeah, there's not enough advantage to make me recommend it to anybody.
Yeah, no, I guess, you know, I mean, the way I take that, I love the candidness of your answer, but you know, like whether it's psychologically looking at things different or appreciating things more. I've heard that.
You certainly appreciate things, and I mean, and after almost dying, you definitely appreciate life a little bit more. I try, and I think really more it serves to let other people know. Because I mean, just telling you about the box. I mean, you don't think about it, but then you think about your back. You know, you tweak something in your back, and you think about trying to pick, and you're like, "Fuck, I can't." And it's like that's every day.
Yeah.
And having to ask people for help, I've gotten to where I will ask for help when I need it.
Yeah.
And that was just that was an old unit guy, which was kind of another small world thing. There's a guy with a Ranger hat. Hey, where were you? Blah blah. Oh, he's in the exact same platoon as me. Left a couple of months before I got there and went to the unit. And,
Wow.
You know, and he got hurt in a training accident. But somebody was trying to help me. I brought him out to a pistol match just to get a gun in his hands, and we were able to get him shimmy. He's a quad. He can't hardly use his hands, but we got a gun in his hand, and he was able to ring steel with it.
Yeah, that's amazing.
And but he said you need to take the help when you can, because you know you're only going to be able to tough it out for so long, and it's you know, I got one set of shoulders, and whenever I got to get them fixed again, that's going to be a long rehab.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's going to be you know, I haven't just spent a whole lot of time in the hospital. It's going to be a shitty year.
Yeah.
When I got to get that shoulder redone. So I try to put that off as long as I can.
Does opening the box where it's at, taking the shit out and shit, does that make it any easier?
It all depends.
Yeah,
it depends on what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a fucking piece of furniture, probably not.
Yeah, I had a light assembly show up yesterday, and it's not a huge box. It's only this big, but
it's heavy and awkward.
Yeah, it's just awkward. It's just long.
Yeah.
So you got to get a hold of the side, and it's like,
yeah.
What can you do? But again, I'm out there woodworking. I'm building a trellis right now as a housewarming gift for a friend.
Oh, neat.
And so it's got 8-foot sides.
Yeah.
And of course, as I come up with this plan in my head, I'm not thinking about how much this shit's going to weigh.
Yeah.
So I made a trellis. I built the lattice by hand, and the lattice is all.
Damn, that's cool.
The lattice is all 1/2 inch thick, 1.5 or 3/4 inch. Yeah, 3/4 inch thick, 1.5 wide.
Yeah.
And so that's the lattice in the middle. So each side is heavy as fuck.
Oh, I bet.
And I'm trying to sand this stuff. Like, to move it to sand it, it's like I gotta get in the middle. It's everything I got to get this one arm up and get it and just kind of drop it on the sawhorses without fucking it up.
Have you thought about making smaller shit?
Yeah. It's crossed my mind. I get a little over ambitious sometimes.
Oh, that's good. You got to shoot for the stars, right?
Yeah, and it's and I've got a great neighbor. Yeah. I can only see one neighbor's house. You know, I can kind of see the neighbor behind me, but we got trees in between. And the one neighbor I can see is awesome. He, I'll throw up a hand. They'll come over and help whenever. He's awesome. Home more than he's not home. He's Navy guy.
Oh, that's cool.
So he's good.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Girlfriend's kid just actually got to San Diego. He's in the Navy.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Oh, that's cool.
He's a GSE, General Services Electrician. So he's going to be on the USS Russell for the next 4 years.
Shit, good on him.
Yeah. No, it's a good move for a kid. I think more kids need it.
Yeah,
my youngest one wanted to, but he's got the asthma, and so it's not happening. And my daughter, my oldest one just doesn't want to.
Yeah.
Which I get it.
To each their own.
Watching 20 years of war and seeing living on a military base for most of that, and seeing seeing friends' parents not come home and stuff. I can see that.
Sure.
I still try to encourage the kids. I mean, I substitute taught for a year, and that's the same thing. Well, what do you think I should do? I'd go in the military if I was you. I mean, I'd go in the Navy and pick a skill. I'd come out with something, like an electrician or something. But I'd definitely,
yeah.
Although I wouldn't change my path, I'd still do the Ranger thing.
Well, so it begs the interesting question, to go back. Do people ever ask you? Do you ever think like, is that one of those things? Everything happens for a reason. You look at it that way. Like, would you change that?
All I would change was a crash. I wouldn't change anything else. I would still go be a Ranger. I had so much fun, and I worked with and for so many phenomenal people there, and just the person that made me. Mm-hmm. Because I mean, the same thing. I mean, getting there is just the first part of the fight. It's because once you're there, it doesn't fucking matter. Once you're there, you've got to keep that standard every fucking day, and you can't drop it, and you got to earn that shit every day. Mm-hmm. And the world, the military is littered with people that didn't. I mean, I can't tell you how many times because I don't know how you guys do it. Because as a SEAL, you are your own MOS, right?
We are now. When I first joined, it wasn't. There was they had what's called a SEAL source rating. There was about 15 or so of them, and they were regular Navy jobs that whoever higher up decided that it had some applicability for the SEAL team. So it was like corpsman, intelligence specialist, yeoman, electrician, aviation boatswain's mate, fucking gunner's mate. There were different ones that they could kind of see would have some applicability, but they really didn't. So like for me, as an example, I wanted to be a corpsman, but when I did come in and I tried to be a corpsman, they said, we're all plussed up on corpsman, so it's a closed rate right now for a SEAL source rating because we have too many of them. So I was like, well, I'll take intelligence specialist then. That seems like, my assumption is like it's James Bond fucking CIA spy shit. It wasn't. But still neat, whatever. So go to boot camp, go to intelligence specialist A school for like 4 months, and then I went to BUDS. The upside with that, if you even want to, I'd call it maybe more of a silver lining, because that system doesn't make sense. No. For SEALs to be studying and testing and being in a rate that is in the regular Navy that they don't do. Yeah. One, it's not practical. It's inefficient. And you're competing against people that do that for a job and you don't. So they do give you like basically a handicap, and I don't remember what it was, maybe a 10-point handicap or something like that. Like if you were a SEAL and you're going against regular Navy guys, you get some sort of handicap advantage. Yeah. But it's still, like I said, it's just like you're taking this test and it's asking you questions about shit that you've never done. Yeah. So even the things that you're studying, like even if you memorize shit and whatever, it's stupid.
Yeah, if you don't know, girlfriend's got me. She's called me the other day. It's like I had a freaking Spartan kick some dude off an electric panel. And I was like, Yeah, I mean, if you're not around electrical panels every day, you don't know that shit. Yeah. It's like me trying to remember Black Hawk stuff a minute ago. I hadn't studied it in forever. Yeah. If you're a SEAL, you're not studying the electronics on a battleship or a destroyer. They don't use battleships anymore.
But I will say the upside is that you could switch rates. So if they're and just like I think probably in the Marines, Army, what have you, is that there are certain rates where it's easier to make rank because they're understaffed, like there's not a lot of competition, or like, let's say going from E4 to E5 or E5 to E6, like there's so few of, let's say it's aviation boatswain's mate, is that, we would have guys that would switch from yeoman to aviation boatswain mate because they knew if they just took the test, they would pass and make E5 because it was that understaffed. So you could kind of game it.
I didn't think about that.
Yeah. Which, so again, it's like, it's kind of a silver lining in that it's like, well, you can make rank a little easier. You're not competing against your own community, but it's stupid. It's still not the right way to do it. And so early 2000s, they created SO, Special Operator, for the Navy as an MOS or a rate, as they call it in the Navy. Now, the good side or the upside is you're studying relevant material. You're competing against your own community. You're not going to have this like weird upside down pyramid of super high ranking people because there's all these different rates that maybe it's really easy to make E7, E8, E9 and you don't really
people get promoted earlier than they should have been because
or just it's like now you've got way more E9s than you should have as a community because they're in all these different rates, but the downside is kind of the same thing, is that now you're competing against your own, and so now there's only so many that can go from E4 to E5 and E5 to E6. And I think, at least from my perspective at that time, it seemed like it was almost an overcorrection in terms of the billeting or how many people that they would allow to make E5, E6, E7, et cetera. And so it seemed kind of shitty in that it was like, well, fuck, we're only going to have, 20 chiefs this year or whatever the number was. I think they kind of castrated the billet numbers of how many people could make rank, so like with anything, there's pros and cons, but yeah, I mean, it's for the last 20 plus years, SO has been an actual rate now, but
so we didn't have that in the range, right? It was all different MOSs. So we'd boot somebody out for not making the standard. It wasn't uncommon for us to see them. I mean, they'd be a piece of shit in the range regiment and they'd be 2 pay grades higher. 6 months later, you bump into them at Fort Bragg, but But it's, you look at it and the standard of performance is up here.
Yeah.
And they were just down here, didn't quite make it, but the regular Army, the standard here, so now they're top dog.
Yeah. Yeah.
Getting promoted and making it.
Yeah.
It's good stuff, though.
Yeah, for sure. Is there anything that I didn't ask you that I should have, or that you'd like to bring up and talk about?
We talked to nonprofit a bit. If people want to donate, the website's adaptivedefense.org or something, if we can link it.
Yeah, for sure we can. Is that your main gig?
Yeah, that's it. I'm retired.
Have you tried having jobs and
well, I did the substitute teaching for a year, and the problem is with the pressure sore, and take the time off, and I work myself right into the hospital.
Yeah.
And so I need the flexibility.
Yeah.
And I do well enough between my VA disability / medical retirement, and then I get the Social Security that, although I fucked myself teaching, I substitute taught for a year, and I earned too much for the Social Security.
Oh, really?
And so at one point they said I owed them $55,000 in back Social Security. Now it's down to 14. But I made $14,000 substitute teaching over a year, and I've got to pay all of it back.
That's fucking
so essentially I substitute taught for a year through the height of COVID for nothing.
Yeah, man, that's fucking lame.
Yep, that's the government though.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yep, they. The alternative is I just don't take it and I go out and do a 9 to 5, and again, so I was kind of trying with the substitute teaching, and it's not worth another year in the hospital.
Yeah,
that was miserable.
Yeah,
and then the hyperbaric chamber was cool and all, but I don't want to.
Yeah.
I don't want to do that shit again.
Yeah. Do you do any speaking engagements or anything?
Not really.
That's something you'd want to do?
I've had a couple. Yeah, it's something I could do. I could definitely. I clearly can talk. I talk a lot. That's something. I haven't done a bunch, but I've done a couple little small ones, and I'm always up for stuff like that. And if I could do anything to help people out or get people out,
Yeah, absolutely.
It's always trying to make the world a better place.
For sure. I envy your attitude towards things, your drive and determination to, continue to kick ass and help people get off the couch. And, I think the adaptive defense stuff is fucking awesome. And I love that you're doing that and putting that kind of effort into it.
Definitely a good time.
Yeah. Do you have a parting gift here for you?
Appreciate you, sir.
Big thanks to John Johnston and Champion Choice Silver for the coin and the design and paying for the buckles and everything. So
that's awesome, man.
And if you ever wear shit kickers and go to the Houston Rodeo down there, you can sport the mic drop belt buckle.
I've got the leather belt that this can go on.
Awesome.
The shit kickers ain't gonna happen because putting them on is not a thing.
Yeah.
It's so hard to put shit like that on my feet nowadays. It's
not even worth it.
No. I don't even think I can.
Yeah.
I'd have to get them. They'd have to be ridiculously large.
You could maybe get some almost like a sprained ankle Velcro brace that looks like a fucking cowboy boot.
Yeah, I mean that's what I need.
Yeah,
and that's what I need.
Surprised they don't have more of that kind of stuff where it's like
they probably do. I mean they were giving me clothes at Walter Reed where they cut down the seam on the side and then the Velcro like for amputees and stuff.
Oh, okay.
They're like my stripper pants. That's what I used to call them because wow, fucking magic Trevor.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Yeah, that's awesome.
But it's man, it's
again, I appreciate you taking the time. Fascinating story and inspiring to say the least.
Thanks for giving me the opportunity to share it.
Yeah, absolutely. For the listener, I hope you enjoyed it. We are going to do a little kind of after show or post show Patreon exclusive where we talk a little bit more about the accident and orgasms during being paralyzed and all kinds of
still haven't had one of those.
So we'll get into that, and I do appreciate you coming. I appreciate you guys listening. I hope you enjoyed it. If you didn't, you can choke yourself. And until next time, this is Mic Drop.